Right then, so this week's Street Talk, last week's Street Talk, a bit far behind. So we have got 5 stories to talk about this week, Gemma. I'll do 3 of them, as you're feeling poorly. And we're going to start off with the Damon Child story, which, again, great stuff in this week's or last week's episodes. I thought that getting Stephen involved, just while they're having a bit of a break from the Elaine side of the story, genius move. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you thought of that later. Then we are going to move on to the courting Miss Courtney storyline, which we have. What do we call that? Carting Miss Courtney last week, didn't we? But there was definitely some courting involved at the moment. And the poor Paulie Paul. Oh, that miss. Oh no, we'll get on to it in a bit. Right, next one, the Todd award storyline. I came up with this storyline title after I saw the picture on Instagram a week and a half ago. I'm pretty proud of this one. Stiff competition. Thank you.
You nearly got robbed when they called it the Stiffies.
I know, literally. All I saw from going into this week was the picture of those two holding the award. I was like, this is brilliant. I'm going to call this one Stiff Competition. And yeah, and I thought, don't anybody mention that during the week. I want to claim this original line as well. I'm sure nobody else has mentioned this at all in the week since it's had. And then Ryan on the roids.
Yeah.
He's getting drugs and yeah, you said I wasn't allowed to call this storyline Conabolic steroids.
No, because you're saying bollocks.
Because it sounds like I'm saying a rude word. I don't know. But so I've got the Stephen and Elaine stuff kind of mashed up with the Damon Child story because it seemed like it kind of fitted together. So I will start off with that. And it's Audrey's birthday on Monday, but it turns out she didn't want to do anything. 83, just another number. And Adam says to Sarah Lou, look, go and speak to your gran, check she's okay. And Sarah says, okay, well, I bet she does want to do something with her birthday. I just wish that people would tell the truth and be open and say how they feel. I'm not a mind reader. And Adam kind of, as her back's turned, gives a bit of a look to say, oh, if only I knew what I was feeling at the moment with my panic attacks and everything. So, Kung Fu Jerry, meanwhile, comes to visit Elaine at number 4. He's heard about her and Stephen splitting up. It's funny because as we were driving back from Dover yesterday, we listened to our previous podcast, didn't we? And some of the stuff that we were talking about there feels like it happened so long ago. Like it was a fortnight ago since this split up. And Jerry, he's right in there and he wants to know if she would like to have a drink out sometime. She's not sure she's ready yet, but she does thank him for helping her get that courage up for giving Stephen the old heave-ho last week. Speaking of Stephen, he's still in hospital come Monday morning. Sarah visits him and he's reading a murder mystery book called / Burn Burn. I don't know if that's a real one. Have you heard of that one before?
Knowing me, it's probably an incredibly famous and important British novel that I should have heard of.
Well, you don't read murder mysteries or anything, do you? You want the true crime.
I don't read a lot of books.
No. So anyway, I thought that was still quite a good touch.
Which I hate when people say that, but I don't.
It's true. No, I don't either. And yeah, so I don't know whether is he checking up on tips for his next victim, maybe, or maybe methods. He's not done any slashing or burning. I think so
he's
far.
More. I imagine
he's done splashing.
I imagine more he was comparing himself. Like,
yeah.
He's like, well, I'd do better than that.
Why haven't they written a book about me yet?
He's thinking, well, if you do / burn burn, you're just creating a pattern and they can catch you that way. What you do is completely different every time you kill.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they won't be able to link you to all of the one murders.
He should have been reading John Stape's book, shouldn't he?
That would have been brilliant.
Local serial killers.
That would have been great.
Anyway, so he's happy to see Sarah Lou. He says, I'm ready for a fresh start. I've cut ties with Elaine. Can you go and get me my briefcase from the factory? Meanwhile, we got Tim telling Sally about Jerry's proposition towards his mum later, and Elaine says, look, I just need time to think, so I'm going to leave the programme for a little bit, go and stay with my mate in Scarborough while the story's put on hold.
Scarborough got 2 shout-outs this week.
It must have been for the same reason. What was the other one?
The other one was Summer reading a list of top wedding destinations.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it?
And she's going, Scarborough, why is that on the list? And they're like, oh, somebody from Yorkshire. There was obviously a reference that was incredibly local that we didn't get. Does anyone want to explain that to us?
I'm not fussed. Yeah, then there was a bit of a Scarborough agenda, wasn't there, this week? But anyway, so Elaine's bogging
Product
off.
placement, maybe.
Elaine is like the most fly-by-night character. She's like...
1 minute she's there, the next minute she's gone, buying a house, abandoning a house,
yeah,
getting married to a man, running away from a man.
How long has she been in the show now? What, 3 years maybe? But
40.
only about an hour and a year and a half of that. She's only been in it, but I'm not complaining. I don't mind having an Elaine break at the moment. I assume we'll see her again. So Adam's speaking to Sarah.
Maybe she'll turn up dead.
Maybe she will. Adam's speaking to Sarah later and says, "Oh yeah, I had another panic attack yesterday." And she's like, "Oh look, I'm really sorry. This kind of my fault that your life's gone down the toilet at the moment, but let's chat later."
I feel really sorry for Adam. He thinks he's keeping it together, but his body is not coping as well as his brain. Well, there's some kind of disconnect here because he doesn't. It kind of seems to creep up on him, but I think that's very normal.
Well, yeah.
When you're stressed out, sometimes you don't realise you are stressed out.
I've had panic attacks in the past, not for ages now, but mine always used to be at bedtime. Do you remember?
Yeah,
I used to come into the lounge, Gemma, everything's going on. I don't even remember what it was about now, but I definitely went through a phase where they were horrible. I mean, my camera didn't go all blurry and wonky angles or anything
really
like that,
hard.
so clearly I wasn't having...
It was tough because I was trying to comfort you and you couldn't touch you or anything. It was really hard.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, those were the days.
They were, yeah. So Elaine bogs off to Scarborough in the car. Jenny's there. They tell you what, the front of the Rovers must be like the cleanest pub in England because Jenny seems to be there most days at the moment, giving the windows a scrub. Is that what you're supposed to do? I mean, I must admit, we maybe haven't had our windows cleaned once since we moved into this house, have we?
No.
But we're not supposed to be entertaining members of the public.
We're being cheap, that's why.
We've got more windows in this house than our last
time,
house.
When we used to get our windows cleaned in our old house, it cost us £6 a month. I do not think we would get away with that.
No, I think it's going to be
more like 20 £30.
Yeah, so we're fine. We're rocking the grubby look at the moment, but not our
outside.
Jen. Yeah. Anyway, so she's there scrubbing away, and she watches Elaine leaving and going, "Oh, very interesting." Because every so often I forget that she is supposed to be dating Owen at the moment. He didn't get He got a name check this week, didn't he? But I don't think we saw his face. And she sees Sarah there, and Sarah says, "Oh look, if you want to go and see Stephen, because Jenny is still showing a bit of an interest in him, why don't you go and visit him in the hospital?" And Jenny's like, "Yeah, okay, maybe I will sometime." So Sarah goes to the hospital herself later with this incredibly flamboyant birthday cake. Well, it was just like, Audrey said she didn't want anything, but she definitely got a custom-made birthday cake, didn't she? It was a pink one with a big pair of scissors and...
It looked like it was empty when she put it down, but hey.
It looked a little bit like a cardboard hat box, but I know, I assume it was another triumph from the Red Butterfly Bakery.
I'd be happy if somebody gave me an empty box instead of a cake.
You don't like cake, do you?
I don't hate cake, I just always would choose not to eat it.
If ever we have a cake in our house, which isn't very often, you'll have maybe one thin slither of it, won't you? And eat maybe half of that, and the rest of it is like...
And you'll go, "Are you having any cake?"
Suppose I'd better eat it then. And over the course of the next week, the cake gets drier, and I'm just like, "No, I'm going to eat this. I don't want to waste the cake."
Oh God.
But yeah, Audrey's got a lovely cake for 10 seconds on screen.
It was really nicely pretty decorated.
It was very pretty and
props department's doing... I don't know if it's the bakery or props department, but they also made
they didn't need to cut it, trophy. So it didn't need to be a real cake.
No, it didn't.
They were busy making
coffins.
Not so genuine looking gold coffin awards this week, so maybe they didn't have time for a cake.
I want to know what the thought process behind how big that award was. What was the... Because normally, a trophy is, I don't know, not the size of a phone, or maybe the size of a phone and a half. Not like an enormous novelty. Like, it looked like you could put things in it.
Well, maybe it's just they've got like an urn display inside the Undertakers, haven't they? Maybe it just stands up next to the urns, and if you want to put it next to one and the urns dwarf it, it's like, that doesn't...
sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So she's there bringing the cake to Audrey, and she mentions as well that Jenny may pop in, and Audrey's like, "Oh, Jenny, eh? Oh, one door closes, another one opened," and Stephen says, "I swear we're just friends at the moment," and that's kind of how it's left later when Jenny turns up at the hospital. He's there just disposing of because Sarah brought him the briefcase earlier, which has got the suicide note in, hasn't it? The one that he forged for Elaine, and he's there tearing it up.
Well, he only tore it in half, and then he stuffed it back in the briefcase.
Yeah, there are a couple of documents this week that Stephen didn't really shred quite as much as he should have done.
Stephen just seems to go, well, I've torn it in half. That's as good as it's going to ever get.
Well, you know, he found up Sarah's torn in half letter as well, didn't he? And that didn't turn out very well for her. So anyway, Jenny nearly catches him doing that, but not quite. So this letter is still potentially readable by someone who may end up finding it later on, I assume. They talk about him and Elaine being over. And Jenny's like, oh, I never really thought that Elaine was your type anyway. Well, what sort of person is my type? Asked Stephen. Before Jenny can get a chance to answer, she gets a saucy phone call from Owen, promising all manner of things, I assume. I don't know. Stephen in the background while this phone call's going on, he's like, so he's clearly still got the hots for Jenny and doesn't appreciate that she's getting a secret phone call from him.
He would have learned by now, don't make faces.
Yeah, exactly. Jenny's like, thinking, what's that? I've just seen your reflection in the monitor.
Nothing can go wrong here. There's no microwave.
There are plenty of screens in hospital rooms, Stephen. You've got to watch yourself there. But anyway, Gemma doesn't catch him, and that's the end of that. Jenny, doesn't catch him, and that's the end of that. Only other scene we get that episode for that story is Sarah and Adam in speed dial, because she said, oh, we'll talk about your panic attacks. So they do, and she says, look, you need to speak to someone about these if these happen again. And he says, yeah, I will. One more panic attack and I'm there with Dr. Gaddis. I don't know what you can do about panic attacks. Did I see anybody about them?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
I don't know whether I just had Rescue Remedy, didn't I?
Yes.
That was great.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it did anything or not, but a couple of drops of Rescue Remedy on my tongue, and at least it felt like it was doing something. A nice bit of placebo there. So Wednesday's episode, Gail comes round to Sarah and Adam's flat because she's been invited to this baby scan. She's a little bit confused about why they go in private, and Adam says, oh, I'm just really keen to find out what sex the baby's going to be, and doing this special blood test gets us to find out early.
I'm just baffled because there was a whole subplot about Gail having to change her outfit.
Yeah,
and I don't know, what is the significance of this? Was it like, whenever something weird like this happens on the show, I'm always thinking to myself, there's some kind of real world reason why this has been written into the show, and I don't have any idea whether this is true or not. But in my mind, it's just that they realised that they filmed these the wrong way round, and Gail was wearing the wrong clothes, and they realised they had to write in a whole load of scenes about her changing her outfit.
You reckon? I got no idea.
I don't think anyone would have thought any like blink twice if she had turned up wearing a different outfit than she was wearing earlier, because Gail would certainly be the sort of person, out of the 3 people who were involved in this appointment, would have been the only one who genuinely would have said, oh, I think I should wear a different outfit if we're going to a private genetics clinic.
I think it was just an opportunity to take another swipe at bag lady Gail in a dowdy fashion.
What do you mean? I thought she looked perfectly... If anything, like, maybe take... Like, her coat maybe was a bit casual, but why should she be wearing a coat inside the room?
No, I thought she looked fine. I thought she looked fine.
It was weird.
But also, perhaps, I don't know, did it facilitate her bumping into Audrey and Stephen downstairs? But she could have just seen them on the way. Yeah. I don't know. But
it was weird. I really would... It's one of those things where I'm like, what happened there? Please... Please explain yourselves.
So the topic of where Stephen's going to live comes up when Gail bumps into him and Audrey later, because he still wants to stay in Red Bank, which I think is a good idea because I quite like this new flat set.
Well, we were just talking about it 2 weeks ago, and saying what they're going to do with that set now. It doesn't make sense that no one's going to live in it.
But, you know, by the way it turns out in the week, oh no, he is going to still live in it, isn't he, the way it ended up. Tim's watching on this, and he's
grumpy old Tim.
He's not happy about Stephen still loitering around the flat that he's not even putting any money into. But he wants to go and square up to Stephen, but Sally lures him into the cafe with a promise of a full English. So
really?
Tim knows which way his bread's buttered there.
Stephen should be just renting it off of Elaine.
Well, that's what happens in the end.
I know, but is he renting it or is he just living there?
Yeah, no, he's renting it. He's renting it, we find out later. So, over to the private posh clinic, which looks fairly similar to Weatherfield General, to be fair. But the scan's all looking good. Now the sonographer tells them we need to have a blood test so we can find out the sex of the baby and test for genetic diseases. So Sarah's kind of looking a bit worried about that because obviously in her head she doesn't know who the baby's father is at this point, but she's worried that these results might throw up something that suggests the baby's
not Adam's.
Not Adam's, exactly, because it's got it's inclined towards particular genetic conditions that Adam's family don't show.
It's like this baby's got like a drug dealer gene in it.
Yeah.
And then everyone will say,
there?
but Adam was dealing drugs that time because Ken got mad and burned all the money.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So it runs in both families.
Yeah.
There's no way to know who the father is.
So there's a bit of a discussion there about whether genetic test is a good idea or not, but ultimately they go for it, and it's going to be next week.
Adam does say that he doesn't have any genetic issues in his family, even though his dad died of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, but we also looked that up.
We looked it up. But I doubt he knows this.
He might have done. I think it says that if your parent
well, if your parent has had it, you've got a greater chance of having it. But if you were asked directly by a nurse, or it came up and they were like, do you have any genetic problems? You wouldn't say, not to my knowledge, in my family, when your dad died of it. You wouldn't say no, you'd say, well, yeah, but I know about that already.
Maybe, I guess.
What do you mean, maybe?
Yeah.
I think that was a slight mistake.
Oh, I didn't mind. They don't need to. I like that they reference the past.
They do need to reference things. It would have taken just as much time for him to have said, well, I know my dad died of Alzheimer's, but that's already a risk that we are aware of.
Yeah. He didn't die of Alzheimer's, did he? He had Alzheimer's and he died of pneumonia.
He died of Ken Barlow.
Yeah, outside
I'm still
factory.
suspicious of that.
Yeah, Ken stuck a knife in his back.
Smothered him when nobody was looking.
Anyway, so they're going to get this test done. Results next week. Stephen, meanwhile, is off to the pub for a drink and he wants to chat with Jenny, but she can't because Daisy's ditched her, so she's there on her own. Tim's listening into this and isn't pleased to hear that Stephen seems to be celebrating being rid of his mum.
Well, what does he want out of life? What, Stephen to be pining after her, even though he said that they should never be together in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. Stephen goes back to his flat later and there he finds Tim chucking all of his stuff out of these steps. So these are the Red Bank apartments that have got the big back and forth stairs going up to them, the Ghost Rana stairs. And Tim's doing the old... Well, he's doing the job for Elaine, really, isn't he?
Flinging his stuff out.
Classic
I like
Corrie
the way
thing.
he had Stephen's signature brown suede
Yeah, that was
jacket.
the first thing to go out,
it's like,
wasn't it?
don't throw that in a puddle.
That's how we know it's his.
Yeah.
And Sarah and Gail find him yelling up at Tim to no avail. Tim's like, no, you're out of there, you're not living there, this is my mum's flat, it's nothing to do with you. And so Stephen Sarah says he can go and stay on her sofa for a little bit. And she helps him pick up his stuff, and then she finds this I've written down in my notes here, an interesting looking journal or something, because it wasn't quite clear from that scene what it is she's found. And we were watching this going, ooh, what could that be?
What is that?
What could it be?
So she picks up
a journal, and there's a bit of paper coming out of it. So they go back to Sarah's
really
flat, and Sarah's like,
surprising.
she pulls out this piece of paper with a flourish, and it's her paternity test results letter. What are you doing with it?
That
and we
was
were like,
what?
Yeah, what is he doing with it?
Now, then there was a really unnecessary flashback.
Please, Coronation Street, do watch out with this. This is becoming far, far too frequent.
I'm not
now.
sure.
Not flashbacks, but
the only thing we got. Well, we needed this. The only reason we needed this was to know that Stephen already knew the results.
Yeah. So what happened then was, when we saw Sarah Lou chucking the letter a couple of weeks ago
in the bin
outside Victoria Gardens, why not? And then what supposedly transpired after that was Stephen came skulking around, took the letter out of the bin, opened it up and read it. And you're right, in the flashback, we see him reading the note and going, interesting. But what he's saying, meanwhile, is that he saw her binning a letter which he thought was related to the factory, so that's why he looked at it.
Kind of plausible, but...
And he says, I didn't read it, I've got no idea what the contents are. So... with the benefit of hindsight now, we know at this point he's known for a couple of weeks that the baby is Damon's. he's been the only one that's known it's Damon's, and he's been keeping that bit of information under his hat.
But I think he slipped here a little bit. But I'm not sure. This thing is slightly confusing because he says, I'm sensing you didn't get the news you were hoping for, because he doesn't realise that she hadn't read it yet.
Exactly.
So he gives away, in a sense here, that he knows it says Damon.
I kind of
but
wish...
I'm still not 100%.
I kind of wish that at some point in between... when that happened a couple of weeks ago and this week, Stephen had made an off-the-cuff remark or something that would have made us go...
In hindsight.
How does he... Yeah, it's that. Maybe there is. Maybe people have found this already. But if he'd have said something that would have made us think, how does he know about... But he's been completely separate to this story up until this week, so I'm guessing there hasn't been anything. But unnecessary flashback.
It wasn't unnecessary because I don't know how else we would have got the information that he had already read the test.
I don't know whether we really needed it though.
Yeah, but do we? This is the question, because I'm still not sure about you. The way the show's portraying it is one way, but I have another theory.
Okay, well let's so what happened next? Well, he says, I know the results. I assume it's not the ones that you
No, he doesn't say that.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't know the results.
I haven't looked.
I saw that it was from the clinic. I assume that
you didn't get the news because you look sad.
Yeah, exactly. Now Sarah explains to him about Adam not being interested if the baby's not his, and Stephen says, well, we've got some options here that you can look into, and Sarah's she's furious because he's now involved himself in her storyline and she don't want any of this.
Now, why do you think he's doing this? I think he's just trying to set himself up with allies that are tied to him by some kind of blackmail purpose.
Yeah, there doesn't seem... Maybe, because there's not an obvious motive at the moment, apart from the fact that, she is his family and...
She's his... I mean, they're...
Uncle and niece.
They've had a very close relationship. Unfortunately, a lot of it has not been on screen because they were in Milan.
Yeah.
And we never saw any of that. But we know for years she worked with him in Milan.
Mm-hmm.
And they've managed... I think they've done a pretty good job of sort of maintaining that close relationship.
Yeah.
But really, he's totally overstepping the mark for a normal relationship with his niece here. But so I think that is what he's doing. He's setting it up so that if he ever needs something from her, she'll have to do it. Yeah.
She'll owe him something.
Yeah.
He at the moment, again, who knows what might have happened since in the past couple of days. But he and her are the only ones who know whose father the baby is, so he could absolutely blackmail her, and he's shown the way he's treated Audrey in the past that he's no way near adverse to blackmailing or getting
doing
one
all
over
kinds of underhand things.
Members of his family. So yeah, maybe, but I do still think it's a little stretching the realms of credibility that he would have that he would have that he would have seen her bin the letter and then decide I'm going to go and see what that is like.
No, I would have. Yeah, but he's a villain. He's sneaky.
I don't know.
The thing is, though, didn't she have... She had the letter and she kind of looked like, oh, gosh. Oh. It wasn't like she was just going, better throw this rubbish away. I think she had an emotional response, which... Because I am quite sneaky and I do like to find out things I shouldn't know. So I might go, what the hell was that? Electric bill or something.
Anyway, so let's carry on. So she stormed off. Daniel, meanwhile, is chatting with Adam in the pub about the scan, and he's still feeling a little bit out of sorts over the whole thing, but Glenda wants a massive celebration.
In the back of his mind...
Yeah, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, yeah, but what if this baby isn't mine?
I still
He's been told it is.
She told me, and she's got a bit of a motive there to tell a few fibberinos.
Exactly. So he just wants to see it in black and white, and maybe, the way that she reacted when the gender disorder test came was brought up, maybe she's still... holding on to
gender disorder. I think you mean genetic.
Genetic disorder.
Gender disorder. Oh dear.
Not getting into that. The genetic disorder results next week. That might be problematic. He's thinking. So he goes outside, has another panning attack with blurry camera, wonky angle, the whole shebang. And Daniel,
why not go the whole hog?
Exactly. It wasn't one of these camera looking into his face panic attacks. No. So I don't know what's worse.
What's he moaning about then?
Daniel finds him outside and says, "Look, you need to get yourself checked out. Come into the pub. Let's talk about things properly." I've not found Daniel's involvement in this story to be particularly interesting so far. Like,
well, Adam doesn't have a friend, so Daniel is the only character that he's talking to, who he can confide in, and we can hear what he's thinking, because Sarah had Dee, then now she's got Uncle Stephen, and Adam tried to talk to Ken, but obviously William Roach is not always available for scenes because he doesn't film as much as other people, so perhaps that's why they've given him Daniel, because we need to know what he's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, they could have written in him confiding in Dee at work, but I suppose after the whole... He does know that Dee kept it to herself about Damon, doesn't he? I think.
Well, it makes sense. It does make sense that he's talking to Daniel about it. But,
it does, but...
I don't... Yeah, I agree
I'm
with
not
you.
interested in Daniel being involved in this.
I don't really buy them. I mean, I know that they're related, but I just don't think that they would have much to say to each other.
No, I believe that. I just...
They're just completely different people.
I'm more interested in Sarah and Stephen's side of this story than Adam, because you're getting, scenes with both of them and then scenes with each of them in, and whenever it's an Adam scene, I'm like, oh, I'm not particularly fussed with this.
Yeah, but I do think that this is one of those rare stories where we get in almost equal sides.
Yes. Sometimes
we'll only have one character's side of things. Like at the moment, the Ryan and Daisy storyline is basically 80% Ryan.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I feel, is quite split, and I think it's good because there are people on both sides of this, men and women, who are going to watch this and go, "Gosh, I would hate it if that happened to me." Or that I've experienced this, or something.
How are you feeling on the old the sympathy scale for both of them at the moment? Even Sarah, like obviously when she was bonking around with Damon, I was livid with her. But now that's all kind of out of the way, and she's living with the consequences of it.
So you're happy that she's suffering?
I'm not no, not really, but I feel like I'm more on her side, and like I'm wanting her to keep it a secret. Just because I like the secretive, duplicitous kind of nature of it all. I'm like, oh yeah, Sophie Secrets, that's brilliant. Oh, Adam doesn't need to know this. Yeah, get Stephen involved.
Yeah, but I feel like... Normally I like chaos in soaps. But in this situation, I'm like, I just really wish that they could just have what they want here, because they both want something so sweet and innocent. Like, I want to raise a baby with you, and she's pregnant, she wants to keep the baby. He wants desperately to be a father, and it's just such a nice situation that it's just completely ruined, and I feel bad for both of them.
Everything that is going wrong for her, she has brought it upon herself.
But he's suffering, and it's not his fault. Apart from he was working all the time.
He's suffering, but I'm not feeling too bad for him. Well, and maybe that's just my stone-hearted nature, but I'm thinking, oh well, Adam, but it's good drama though, isn't it? You got to admit that.
Adam is I find him quite remote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so he's Daniel's telling him to go off and see the doctor or something. He doesn't, does he?
Well, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to go to see the doctor because he realises what the problem is.
What is it? I'm lost where we are in my notes.
Well, so hang on, yeah. So Adam is talking to Daniel about having his attacks, and he says go to the doctor, and so he talks to Sarah, and no, I think it's Uncle Stephen who talks to her in Victoria Gardens. You haven't written who he is.
I've written he writes in Victoria Gardens.
And she's like really sorry, and he keeps trying to push her into finding out.
Yes,
which is again suspicious to me.
Why? Because he knows who the father is. He's got to have known.
Yeah, but what? So he's pushing her to find out because then he can use it as blackmail material. I mean, honestly, Honestly, if you were really hurt, if you had her best interests at heart, I think you would say to her, you have to, I know you think this is the right thing to do now, but this will eat at you until you die.
I think most people would recommend that, because it would.
I don't trust his motives for anything, because I don't think that he cares about anybody except himself and how he can benefit. So he can benefit from this, because like I said, he can blackmail her. So he's pushing her to find out because he knows what it's going to say.
Now we've got a shared secret together.
Because it doesn't benefit him at all if it's Adam, does it? Because it's like, well, the only thing I can use this for is to say that you didn't know whose it was and you lied about it. But Adam, I don't think at that point would care particularly.
Yeah, no.
He'd just be happy that he was the father.
His. Yeah, okay.
I love this storyline, by the way. This is so
Sarah is eventually convinced to open the envelope, have a look at the results, and although we don't see the paper here, it's pretty fairly clear from her reaction that it's bad news, because she kind of breaks down in tears and kind of crumples a little bit, and Stephen puts his arm around her shoulder. So yeah, baby's Damon's. Who'd have thought? We've been saying it all along. So she gets home. Adam tells her about his panic attack. He said, look, I just want to see the results in black and white. In fact, I've phoned the clinic asking for a new copy of them tomorrow. Sarah's like, bloody hell, what am I going to do now? And I went into Friday's episode thinking, I love this. This is another example of me thinking, how are they going to get out of this one?
This is what I really like. I remember reading, what are you going to say?
Nothing.
I remember reading it was to do with how to write well. And it was saying you should always make decisions when you're writing something that scare you and you can't see a way out of them, because that's how you make an interesting story. And I feel like they've been really doing this with this storyline. It's like, well, what the hell? How can you get out of it?
It's like when Carla wanted that meeting with Gabrielle, or with Seagull Limited a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? And I was thinking, what's going to happen there? And it turned out that, it wasn't that exciting, and it was Gabrielle, but it doesn't matter. The anticipation that it builds.
And the confusion and the theories is what I really enjoy about
and we didn't have much, if any, time to theorise about what was going to happen, because we literally finished Wednesday's episode, worked straight into Friday's episode. But it was good. It was exciting stuff. So Friday starts with Sarah just kind of staring into space in her flat, thinking, I am going to get caught out today. Adam's going to see the letter. He's going to find out that the dad is Damon's. The gig's up, basically. And then Nick comes in, another intruder into the storyline, it seems like.
Well, I think Damon's going to come back.
I think Damon may well have been in this week's Coronation Street that we're going to watch maybe later on today. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, in Coronation Street, if a character's coming back, sometimes they'll get mentioned like the episode before, so that everyone remembers that they exist.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it turns out that Damon needs to sign some paperwork about the late licensing. It's what happens at the end is he tells Sarah that he has signed it, and it says that it's the bistro's all his, or Nick and Leanne's. Damon's completely pulling out of it now, so I don't know, it's something to do with that. And he's there after his early morning jog to get some lawyerly advice from Adam. He says, look, you just need to find Damon yourself. There's nothing to do with me. Get him to sign the papers, then he's out of your life.
Yeah.
So Sarah and Stephen later on are talking about the plans for how on earth they're going to intercept this letter when it comes from the clinic.
I love
today.
this.
It's coming by courier, so
this was brilliant,
it's definitely coming today.
This was brilliant because Stephen's like, Sarah, what's your plan to deal with this paternity letter? And she's like, I don't know, rip it up. And then when another one comes, I'll rip that one up too, and I'll rip all the letters up until there's no paper left in the world.
Stephen's like, that's an amateur plan.
Why not just use Prit stick and forge one? Do you know what I mean? Like, she had literally no idea about how she's going to tackle this problem. Like, I'm just going to rip the letters off.
Stephen's been tackling life or death problems like a pro for the past, nearly a year at this point.
Sarah, do you need
child's play.
My hole punch?
Stephen says, look, I'm going to deal with it. He says at first, look, maybe you should just tell the truth about it. But he later agrees to help her in her duplicity.
Well, she just says that it's not an option.
Yeah. There's also kind of a side story going on in this episode about where Stephen's going to live. It felt a little bit fillerish, but I suppose it's important to know where is Stephen going to live here. I mean, he's got his penthouse lair now, hasn't he, to get up to all his nefarious deeds.
So to walk around drinking whiskey, looking mysterious.
Audrey invites him to move back into Grasmere Drive.
Listen, love, you can come and stay with me in Grasmere Drive, but I don't have a set anymore.
Yeah. He's
like, no, I'd rather stay somewhere I
hear it has a damp problem still.
I fixed that ages ago.
But he wants to move back into the flats. So Gail, just a bit, I didn't like this bit. I mean,
no,
sometimes when
needed.
Characters, it is needed. Sometimes characters need to be away from certain places.
Yes.
But it was a bit catastrophizing to have, oh no, Harry's in A&E.
No, sorry, Michael. Really? This is what happens when you have kids.
They're in A&E all the time.
They do end up going to A&E, or they get sick and you have to go and look after them. And it doesn't happen that much in Coronation Street, but it is quite convenient when it does.
It was really convenient. I mean, I wouldn't be so... I mean, Sarah was gaslighting him the other week about when he saw her kissing Damon. Maybe Sarah secretly cracked Harry round the head and said, right, what are you doing?
No, it's the arm.
Oh, was it his arm this time, was it? Yeah, what really happened, Harry? I didn't hit you around the arm and break your arm.
You fell off something.
Well, in this instance, it was not to her advantage that she had to be pulled away from the hospital. But it did benefit the story because it meant that Stephen was forced to be the one that came up with the plan for intercepting the post, and he did a better job than she would, to be fair.
I kind of like this because Sarah, at this point, is now resigned to the fact that Adam's going to find out, and she could have just let her mum deal with Harry, but she decided that it was more important for her child to be there for him when he was in A&E, and I thought that was a really nice motherly choice for her to have made, and not selfish at all. I wouldn't have gone. I would have been like, "Mum, you deal with it."
Yeah, Harry, you're on your own. You got Gail there.
I'm sure your arm's not broken, and if it is, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll see you later once I've stolen some post.
Yeah, so her plan at the moment is to rip up the letter to buy time, but I think, deep down she realises that there's only so many times that you can do that.
I mean, also, what's she going to say when the courier's like, well, I delivered it to a blonde lady who was wearing pyjamas and looking harassed? Yeah,
exactly. So some woman who looked 15 years old still. It's like, oh, got to be Sarah Louise.
I know, but delivered it to a pregnant teenage mother.
Well done. So anyway, so that she buggers off to the hospital, telling Stephen on the way.
No, Stephen tells her, "I'll look after it. I'll get it. I'll get it for you."
That's right.
She doesn't have a plan. He does.
So what his plan is to have a little forging montage where he's cutting up bits of paper. It's like the usual thing of making the hostage letter, of cutting out the letters from the books, isn't it? But this time he was cutting out logos, sticking them on places, typing up, and now we were watching it. He was doing lots of 99. And we were watching it going, what's he doing? And it was like, oh, I see. So he's using his newly acquired correspondence forging skills that he had just practiced with Elaine's letter the other week to make a fake paternity test result.
And he's there with his scissors and his Pritt stick and his scanner and his laptop. He's thinking, it would have been so much easier if they had sent this in Elaine's handwriting. I could have just written it off easily.
Anyway, so he's got the fake letter now, but we still don't know exactly what happens to it because Carla comes in and he has to hurriedly put everything into his folder.
So he's taken the original letter that he's got that was ripped in half and crumpled up, and he's scanned it and then typed it out again. He cut out the logo and stuck it down, scanned that, and then took it and changed it and scanned it again. It looks like he did quite a lot of different things.
I don't mind the nitty gritty of how he did it.
No, what does that mean? You don't care?
It's like he did it. He is a master letter forger.
Oh yeah, he definitely. I'm sure. Like I'm not.
The thing is, he tells Sarah Louise later on that he shredded the original letter.
But he didn't.
We didn't see him do it. All we saw was that when Carla came into the office, he quickly stuffed all the bits of paper underneath and then later put them into his pink folder. I don't think we saw him shredding the letter.
No, we definitely didn't see him shred it.
That could turn up again later.
So now, in Stephen's office is a piece of paper that says, Damon's the father, and a piece of paper that says Adam's the father.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so. But
it depends on whether he gave Sarah the only copy.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's definitely one that's, stuck together that was the one he scanned to make it look printed off.
Yeah. So when Sarah sees him, comes back home from the hospital later, she's had 8 missed calls from her. She's getting missed calls all week this week. Like, doesn't she notice when her phone rings? She just seems to be constantly looking down at her phone and saying, "Oh, I've had 1,000,000 missed calls from Adam or Damon or
Maybe there was no reception.
Maybe. So she dashes back off home, gets in, and Adam's there sitting on the sofa with the letter, which he hasn't opened yet. He wanted to wait for her. So she's obviously thinking, it's all over here.
I'm toast.
Yeah, and she tries one last ditch attempt to get him to throw it away. He's like, "What difference does it make knowing we one way or the other? I told you what it said before."
If she was like, "Just throw it away, it doesn't matter, don't look at it."
He is mega suspicious, and he's later apologetic about not trusting her, isn't he?
But she was being so shady.
She was being totally shady about it. But he opens it up and is like, "Oh, it says I'm the father," and he's obviously thrilled about this. So yeah, it transpired that Stephen had managed to get this letter back to him. Well, again, I'm not really fussed about the...
Well, the handy thing about it being a courier is that there's going to be no... there doesn't need to be a stamp with franking on it or anything to prove that it has gone through the postal system. It can just get a brand new envelope, seal it up so it doesn't look like it's been opened.
I loved Sarah's reaction to this because she's obviously expecting it to say one thing, and when he's there looking pleased, she's like, "What on earth has happened here?"
Well, he says he opens it and he says, "I'm sorry," and she says,
"Oh yes,
I'm sorry too." And if I was him, I'd be like, "What are you sorry
about?"
I think he interpreted it as her saying, "I'm sorry that you are such a dickhead that you didn't believe that I was telling the truth."
I think it's just that I'm sorry that we've had to go all through all this.
It was plausible that she said, "I'm sorry too."
Yeah, but anyway,
it was great. I love this. Sarah looks at the paper like, "What the hell's this?"
So she goes to find Stephen and shows him the letter.
No.
What?
That's not what happens. She's on the phone. She's on the phone to the clinic when Stephen sees her. And she's going, "Oh my God, I don't know what's happened, but this letter says something completely different to the last letter." And I'm trying to phone up the clinic to find out why there are two different answers. And he's like, "You're welcome. It was me."
I love that. I love Stephen's "You're welcome," and he's obviously mega chuffed with his forging skills here, and says, "I've shredded the real letter. It was me. I did this." And Sarah is, less than grateful about all the hard work he's done to keep this undercover for a bit longer. She's like, "You had no right interfering in my life like this." And he says, "Look, sometimes you got to think of yourself. This is best for everyone. One day you're going to realise you've done the right thing here. I promise I won't interfere in your storyline anymore. My work here is done."
But now I imagine that she's just going to feel really, really guilty.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because she's thinking, now I've got everything I wanted, but it's still not really real.
But is that any different than the guilt that she would have been feeling if Stephen hadn't found the letter anyway?
Yeah.
Like, she was still going to be harbouring this mega secret or unknown whatever. But anyway, so that's left there. Adam, meanwhile,
Adam's thrilled.
He's chuffed. And he's getting all the Barlows and Stephen in the pub later, and he wants to organise a surprise gender reveal party for Sarah on Monday when the results of the blood test come in. What on earth could go wrong there? And Sarah then goes to see Nick. This is when she finds out that he has been in touch with Damon about this late licensing malarkey, and he says, "Oh, sorry for getting him involved in the business and the family and everything." Sarah goes home. They're chatting about baby clothes and stuff together, her and Adam are. And this is when she sees that she's had some missed calls from Damon, which she hurriedly deletes. And he's like, "Oh, everything's great. Thank you for making me the happiest man in the world."
Oh, he's talking about baby tartan and
oh, yes,
are we going to have a little Adam or a little Sarah? It was so cute. I feel so sorry for this guy. And now we're not sure, we think that Damon is the real father.
We know for 100% sure Damon's the real father.
Is he actually sterile? Will he ever be able to have a child?
I still, in the back of my head think that
Possibly.
could be. But I don't know enough about how you tell things like that. Have enough tests been done on him by this point that would have flagged that up?
No.
Or do you need actually a
you
sample?
need to do a fertility test. You can't just go, we're taking blood and we tested for everything.
Well, I don't know what else other tests he's had.
Turns out you're really good at chess. Have you tried playing it?
So anyway, this is just all great stuff, really.
Well, see, I got really confused because I thought that Stephen took the letter and he gave Sarah a fake. I don't know why I've decided this. He gave Sarah a fake one to say that Damon was the father, so that then he could trick her into thinking that they have a secret together. And actually, he's got the real letter that says it's really Adam's baby, but I don't know where I got that idea from.
There can't have been a real letter to. Are you saying that you still think it's maybe Adam's? He wouldn't have done all this forging on Friday's
That's what
episode.
I mean. That's why I got really confused. I was like, why is he forging it when he already forged it the first time? But
no, baby is Damon's.
Oh dear.
And I just got a feeling that baby Damon's going to be showing up at this gender reveal party.
Baby Damon or Damon the father?
Damon. I think that he's going to. No. How do you do it? There's many ways you can do gender reveals.
Yeah, how are they going to do it on the show?
Pop a pink balloon or a blue balloon.
No, because then it would be obvious.
Oh, yeah.
If it's pink or blue.
Pop a balloon, and
I
inside is Damon.
Traditional picture of Damon's face. I thought traditionally you set fire to a forest.
What?
I think that's what you do, isn't it? You sort of fire off a rocket and then set fire to 300 acres of woodland.
I've got a feeling that the gender of the baby isn't going to be the only thing that's going to get revealed at this party on Monday. I don't know, but I know that there's been some kind of drama going on, and I'm thinking that's maybe what the drama is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Have anything else to add about this
Barlows
story?
were not happy about the Americanization of having a gender reveal party.
Well, Ken wasn't.
I thought it was fun. I mean, let people do what they want, for goodness sake. There's no skin off your nose, as long as they're not literally destroying the environment. There's lots of very...
Well, this is a very modern story, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, they've been able to find out who the
reveal party on
I don't think
Coronation
they have,
Street.
so that's all new. The whole find out the gender of the find out the father of the baby while it's still inside the mum. That's all new. It feels like a very 2023 story, and still, I'm just really, really chuffed with how fresh and innovative this whole story is feeling, when really it's a tale as old as time, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an affair story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bog standard, and that's, I was mad at Sarah for shagging around with him a couple of months ago, but partly in the back of my mind it was just like, oh, it's going to be another secret affair story, yawn, 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 but it's turned into something that just feels really, really fresh. So yeah, I'm all for it. Still a little bit annoyed that the whole Stephen and Jenny thing is not going any further. Last episode I was complaining about it being moving at a glacial pace. I still want him to properly make the moves on Jenny, and I don't know why they're slowing it down so much, other than maybe it's going to muddy the waters that Stephen is now wading through with the whole baby thing. But I want Stephen and Jenny. It's seeming to make him bumping off Owen even more likely, and I'm not really bothered about that. I like a good serial killer murder, but
the thing is,
you can keep the bullet in the gun if it's going to be him.
If he kills off Owen, it's going to be another case of Jenny having somebody very close to her that just dies, and her being like, easy come, easy go, on to the next fella. In the last year, then she would have had Johnny, Leo...
Yeah.
And then
Johnny,
Owen,
Leo, Teddy,
just
and
dying.
Owen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it needs to be someone else, but I don't know.
Well, Owen wasn't her boyfriend.
Teddy wasn't.
I mean, Teddy wasn't.
But they were certainly, they were certainly.
And they don't know. They don't
circles.
know. She doesn't know that Leo and Teddy are dead. Then, though.
No, she still doesn't.
Will she ever find out?
Probably.
Will she die first?
I'm sure it'll all come out at some point. But yeah, I'd like to see more movement there. But all in all, I've been still very, very, very happy with how the story's going, and excited to know that we still got 2 episodes recorded that we can maybe watch later today or tomorrow, so we can catch up with people.
Do you want to know an interesting fact about? I don't know if I said this on the podcast.
I'd love to.
About paternity tests.
Yes.
They're banned in France.
Are they? I didn't know this.
Unless ordered by a judge to protect family peace. because apparently French people have so many affairs that they think it would like destroy society.
Well, we've been watching while we've been in France, Emily in Paris on Netflix, haven't we? And there's one thing that I've learned from this is that French are very, very randy, so it makes sense.
Everything we've watched in Emily in Paris is completely gospel.
Yes. Right. Speaking of randiness, Gemma, I'll pass over to you for Aadi's courting Miss Courtney storyline. So, pour toi.
I want to reiterate what I said previously about this being a grooming and coercion storyline.
I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really fun, and I feel kind of guilty for enjoying it because I know that it's really bad.
They've obviously written it to be like, you know, like they advertised it, a steamy, raunchy summer sex story, but they're really ignoring some massive, huge red flags here.
I'm kind of watching it thinking, I don't know what they want us to think about it, because they have kind of advertised it a little bit as the raunchy summer sex story, but that's not come across on the show at all. It's just been in the social media posts, and there's like the key art for this episode, for this storyline is Aadi and Courtney looking all steamy next to each other, but it's not really coming across that way. It's definitely coming across as a bit comedic, particularly Monday's episode, I'm going to say. But, you know, Dev was in it all week, deving it up to the max, so he's always adding that little element to it. But then also, is it a story about grooming and coercion and everything? And it doesn't seem to have gone that way yet.
She literally says at one point, if you want to keep your job, ... let's go upstairs. She literally says, as she's trying to convince him to shag her, that this is in the best interest of your career, which is, like, I thought we'd all learned. Do we need to go back again? Do we all need to go to Weatherfield High's consent workshop for teens or something?
I know. So they're kind of leaning into it by showing that Aadi's a little bit concerned about this, and he's saying, I just want to make everyone happy.
He's getting more and more into it as the week goes on.
He's really getting into it. But they're definitely putting enough funny stuff happening in that I think we're supposed to enjoy it as well. And like I said, I feel mega guilty that I am massively enjoying this. And the one thing that I was worried about, well, one of the things that I thought felt a little off, and I said in the last podcast, is that Aadi's always had this kind of goofy energy about him, and he's a bit of a doofus and he doesn't know what he's doing. And this suddenly making him into this amazing business mind doesn't really sit right with me. But his reactions to how Courtney's been dealing with him this week and leading him up to bed and like, I don't know what I'm getting into here, that to me still feels very true to Aadi's character that Adam Hussein's Aadi has done. So I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with how this is going. But go on, let's
I can't turn my brain off thinking no.
And you're not the only one. This is something else that...
But I also just want to say, if you... you're not a bad person for enjoying it because they're trying to make it... it doesn't make anybody good or bad to have a reaction because this is fiction.
I have seen...
Just to remind everybody, this is fiction. These people don't have real thoughts and emotions. We don't really know what's going on inside their heads. The actual... on the bare face of it is incredibly problematic, and as long as you can acknowledge that in real life this would be wrong,
I can totally see that. Absolutely, this would be wrong in real life. She's got a position of power over him and totally abusing it, but I'm enjoying it for what it is.
There's been way more than enough really dodgy romantic comedies that have sent incredibly wrong and mixed signals that people are still fine with today, that we don't need to be trying to demonise people for liking a story or not, depending on what I mean. I'm just trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like how people get really Puritan about it. I don't like it. I think it's gross.
It seems
I'm not going to attack people who have a different.
It seems like it
opinion
has
about fiction.
Drummed up quite a bit of controversy and heated discussion online.
Yeah.
Again, I've been avoiding discussion groups, Facebook group, Twitter as much as I can in this past week because I didn't want to find out any big spoilers about what happened, but I have seen threads have been started along the lines of, hang on a minute, isn't this wrong? What's the message that Corrie's sending out here? So I went into this week thinking, I can imagine that it's not going to be tackling it in quite the sensitive way that a grooming story would be. But yeah, so
I mean, it still is grooming.
It still is.
And I also just want to say another thing too. I wonder whether the way Courtney looks is also feeding into, like, if Courtney was, you know, a brunette sort of business lady with glasses on who was doing exactly the same actions, I don't think that people would be demonising her as much. And, you know, I'm on the side of like demonising Courtney and what she's doing, but I think it's really important to sort of think about what, you know, all the other negative stereotypes that are kind of filtering in through this character as well. You know, there's certainly a lot about the way that she looks and portrays herself that does invite negative judgment from people.
But Gemma, she's got an MA in business as well.
Well, she keeps telling everybody that she's got an MA in business because she wouldn't know it from looking at her or seeing how she acts. No. She doesn't use it for anything, does she?
Right. Well, she's getting into kinky business with Aadi. Maybe it's that.
Maybe it's an MA in marital arts.
Maybe. Right, go on. So what happened this week? We've already discussed it.
So in Monday, in the shop, Dev's giving Aadi a business pep talk about a packet of biscuits.
Oh, yeah. It was a packet of Corrie brand biscuits, wasn't it? And saying, oh, yeah, man, when you look at this, you got to think about all the hard work and brainstorming sessions that have gone into this. To you, this is just a packet of biscuits, but to me, it's business.
Nice. Aadi's still knocked about the fact that he's not been, you know, made business manager of the year after having worked for 3 days carting Courtney about buying her milkshakes. She keeps showing up with a milkshake in her hand.
She loves a milkshake.
She's gonna...
We didn't know at this point either exactly what had happened between her and him
that's true.
On the previous Friday's episode. I mean, it seemed like it was fairly obvious where it was going, but as we just listened to the last podcast just yesterday, we were talking about, you know, is it just a kiss and then he goes home, or did they do the deed? And I said, oh, they definitely did, but we weren't completely sure at this point.
But they'd make sure to tell us.
Yes.
So...
And then they do it again and again and again and again all week.
So Aadi and Courtney in the bistro, and she's like saying, oh, this is a date, and this is when we find out they did have sex, and he says he regrets it, but he did like it. See, this is why I find it really really unsavoury and gross. And like I said before, this is the same storyline as what happened with Ray and Faye. So hey, it does play into this sexist trope that it's impossible for a woman to take advantage of a man sexually because a man always wants to have sex, which isn't true. No. Anyway, she starts playing footsie under the table when Amy walks in, and he jumps out of his seat.
Bashes his knee on the table.
The thing is, you can't do this storyline anymore, can you? This storyline, thousands of years of history and storytelling and things. This would have been completely fine and a funny, randy, raunchy story about a guy having an inappropriate affair with an older woman.
Lucky him, eh, guys?
You can't do it anymore because there's so many connotations and power dynamics involved. I just wish they had thought about it a bit more because it could have been funny, but I just can't let go. I won't keep going on about it. Courtney drags him away from Amy because she seems to get jealous. Doesn't she?
Yes.
Amy goes to number 7 later and she finds, Courtney comes downstairs going, oh, I'm going to get another bottle of whatever. And Aadi's
yeah.
Who's there? And then runs downstairs in his pants.
This isn't the first time this has happened, but every time it does, I'm just baffled. People wondering, oh, I hear somebody has come to the door. I'm just going to check in my pants who it is. What? It's Amy.
I hope nobody catches me. I better run downstairs just so that they know what's been going on.
And he's like, oh, sorry, this is what it looks like, because he can't think of a way to explain it.
If he had come downstairs, they could have played it off like she was going to have a shower or something. But anyway, Amy's not impressed, and Courtney doesn't care. She drags him back upstairs with another bottle. Yeah. Again, see, getting him drunk. This is what happened to Amy. Yeah, oh, man. Okay, right. So Aadi goes to the shop later, and Amy's like, wow, I don't even know what to say to you.
I've loved Amy's reaction to this week. Not just this, when she could have just been completely judgmental and railed and laid into Aadi straight from the start, but she just kind of gives eyes like, I can't believe what you're doing here. Yeah, she should be a little bit more miffed because I mean, he describes her later as just being a mate, but I thought that they were kind of semi-dating-ish just a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
She's obviously not that into it anyway, and she's just like, I can't believe it. But so I enjoyed that, but I also did very much enjoy her telling Courtney where to go later on that week as well.
yeah. So this is when Aadi's like, look, I literally don't know what to do here. I'm trying to keep everybody happy, which to me is another sort of indication that he's not actually doing
Being
it
coerced.
because he wants to. So Courtney goes around the house later again tonight looking. She's like, oh, I was looking for my glasses. You didn't know I had. Why does she need glasses for? If she's not wearing them normally.
Well, I guess she's got contacts.
Yeah, but will she take them out then? And he didn't notice her pulling something out of her eyeballs.
I don't know.
Anyway, so he's like, come. She says, come to a Weatherfield County match later. I've got 2 tickets and Darren's not coming. And he says, no, I don't want to. And she says, well, that's going to start looking suspicious, isn't it? You need to think of your job. So Aadi agrees. They go to a hotel bar later before the match. And she's still flirting and saying, I'm not going to leave Darren, but I'm going to have a little bit of fun. And speaking of which, I've booked a room upstairs, and I guess you didn't really want to see the football after all, do you? Let's just go and shag anyway. Which I guess they do. Aadi comes home later, and Dev's telling the girls that Darren was supposed to have had a... This is when Amy and Asher, Dev's telling them that Darren got stood up by Courtney that evening, and they were supposed to have dinner together.
Yeah, because the rumours are going around this week that Dev keeps reporting that Courtney's playing away.
Yeah, and he's getting concerned about this. And Amy's looking at Aadi, who's got this great big red lipstick mark on his neck, and she's like trying to like wipe her neck and point like, hey, what? And he's so dumb, he doesn't get it at all. And she manages to intercept Dev before he sees this mark, and she leaps up and tells him, and privately, and she says to him, I thought you wouldn't see her anymore, and he says, I can't help it. So on Wednesday in the shop, this was I know some people would have hated this.
This was brilliant.
But this was Dev saying the golf club rumours are that Courtney's letting somebody other than Darren putt on her green.
Well, he says, what does he do? He's like, oh, there's ladies present here, so I'm going to...
And Amy's like, I wish you hadn't said that.
Yeah.
So he says to Aadi, look, keep your ear to the ground. If there's anything that could put this business deal in jeopardy, I need to know about it. And Amy's like, yeah, you don't want your balls going in a bunker.
Dev's like, excellent golfing metaphor, Amy.
He
We
was
must
so
all
cheesy.
keep our balls on the fairway. It was, yeah, absolutely.
It was
If you hate
Dev.
this kind of Dev,
Max Dev.
yeah, you'd have despised this. But
yeah.
I was there rolling about. That was brilliant. Very well plotted. And
So-
very well scripted and performed, I
Courtney
thought.
comes round number 7 and gives Aadi some disgusting present.
Yeah, I assume it was a pair of pants. We didn't get to see
he wears
that.
it later, and he says something about the plastic, and it's like,
Oh,
I
did
don't
he?
want to know about this. I'm sorry, but this is horrible. He tells her about the golf club rumours, and she's like, look, I don't care about that. They're always gossiping about something. Go upstairs and put this on and come and find me later. Oh, that's so grim. So, in the shop later, Courtney and Amy have a bit of a face-off, because Courtney's drinking an energy drink that she just grabs off the shelf, and Amy starts having a go at her, saying, look, you can't just go around doing what you want all the time. You got to pay for that. And you're, I don't like you. You're toxic. And Courtney saying, oh, you're just jealous. You're just using. You don't care. I don't know what she's saying, but Amy accuses her of using Aadi. And Courtney does that whole thing like, you don't know what I've been through. I've got an MA in business. I'm not just a pretty face. Right. Okay. I don't believe you've got an MA in business. I'm sorry.
I think she's maybe been talking to
She
Stephen about
literally-
getting a certificate forged.
She literally hasn't said anything businessy this whole time. At all, has she?
I thought she did
I don't.
one episode last week that was supposed to be her
She
proving
went,
in the office
oh,
scene.
I've seen your business plan and it looks really good. I could say that. I've got an MA in business. Anyway, Aadi walks in on the tail end of this conversation to hear Amy accusing Courtney of being a manipulative princess who takes advantage of teenage boys to make her sugar daddy jealous. Oh, and this is when she's like, I don't need any man. I've got a master's in business. I don't need a sugar daddy. Go on then, start your own business. What are you going to sell? Stolen energy drinks. She storms off. Aadi follows her. they end up at the precinct, and Aadi's like, sometimes you do come off as a bit up yourself. And she's like, how could you say that? Look how great I am. I'm so fun and cool. I drink milkshakes, not like normal women. Normal women do things like drinking water. I'm cool. Anyway, he assures her that he does like spending time with her, but maybe they should call things off. And please don't be horrible to my friend Amy. She's a good person. And she tells Aadi, if he carries on like this, he can start looking for a new job again. See, if you don't do what I say or react in this relationship the way I want, you can go and find another job. Coercion.
It totally is.
Aadi goes back to the shop and has a go at Amy for having a go at Courtney. And he says, I don't need you to protect me. I can look after myself. Thanks very much. Then he gets back home and Dev's like frantic because Darren's called him into this meeting tomorrow urgently. And he thinks Darren is going to pull out. And Aadi's like, well, nothing I've heard has made me think that. I don't think you should worry. And Dev calls Aadi his sleeper agent, doesn't he? So he's like got the insider track on all the stuff. On Friday, it's just really funny because Dev's had a nightmare about this meeting with Darren, and in it, Courtney's wearing concrete shoes or something, which I thought was weird. And Aadi says, look, I looked over all the figures. I can't see anything that's going to spook the horses. And Dev sits Aadi down and says, do you think Courtney might be in love with me or fancy me or something? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think you need to worry about it. Maybe the whole thing we should just let it go. Maybe it's too much. And Dev's like, no way, man. In the bistro, Darren and Courtney are bickering about having to go see the accountant next. And Courtney says that this accountant fancies Darren, and she's also wearing a different outfit and took a long time picking her clothes because she doesn't like to be judged by the way she looks by the accountant. And this is when they have a meeting with Dev and Aadi about all of these figures about this takeover so that they can talk to the accountant.
I was a little bit let down by this meeting. Like, obviously, I didn't expect that Darren had found out that Aadi and Courtney had been getting it on or anything. But the way that it had been built up and Dev had been worried about it, I thought it must be something serious, and it didn't really turn into be much.
I don't know that they didn't really make it clear in the episode, but it seemed logical to me to assume that Darren says, look, we are going on a cruise like the day after tomorrow. So obviously he's now gone, oh crap, I've got to talk to my accountant before I go. I need a meeting with you in the morning. That's what I think happened.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, Darren's like, oh, we've got to go on a Caribbean cruise, and Aadi seems really jealous about this. And then Courtney talks to him like, well, I'm going on a cruise because I don't like you anymore, and maybe I'll find a boyfriend when I'm on the cruise, and I've just got a load of bikinis in my bag, blah blah blah. And then she realizes that this is getting to him, so then she invites him back to the house for some rumpy pumpy.
Invites him back to his own house
as a goodbye present. So they go round number 7, and there's very desperate snogging on the sofa. She's like, let's do it here. Let's do it right here where anyone can see. And then he looks up to see someone is watching. It's his dead mother.
Oh yeah.
Sunita's picture, smiling down at him, and he's like, no, let's go upstairs. And they get up to go, and you paused it and you went, what do you reckon someone's going to come in through the door at this exact moment? And lo and behold, Dev comes in, and Aadi has to bundle Courtney into the kitchen, where she hides behind a wall as Dev starts fuming on about such a disaster and a catastrophe that's happened now. And we learn that he's mad because he feels like he's lost his touch at golf, and he's crying on the sofa and having a massive hissy fit about it.
It's like regressing into an infant state, isn't it?
Yeah, this was great.
I loved Courtney's reaction because she's there
laughing,
back up against the wall in the kitchen, finding it hilarious seeing Dev acting like a child.
And this half of the episode was written by Joe Parkinson, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes, in his first writing credit on the show.
Yeah, story producer Joe Parkinson.
Yeah,
nice
wrote the
script
script.
writer.
I
Good
thought
stuff.
it was hilarious.
I
loved
did
Dev.
enjoy that.
I would imagine how fun it would be to write for Dev. So Dev decides, he's like, oh, I'm so sad, I want some wine. Oh, the wine's calling to me, and then he starts like doing this exaggerated tiptoe dance and to get to the kitchen to get the wine. And obviously Courtney's there, and they're both freaking out. And Aadi's like, oh no, I already drank the wine. Sorry, you have to get some more. So he manages to convince Dev to leave, and then Courtney comes back in and gives Aadi a big snog, grabs the wine that was supposedly drunk by Dev and has a taste of it, and then it's like, bye!
See you in 3 weeks, I guess.
Maybe. Then Dev gets back from the shop, and I don't know if he's drunk a bottle of wine between this corner shop and his house, but he's maudlin all of a sudden and teary-eyed, thinking about the fact that he's missed the 10-year death anniversary of Sunita.
Well, he said that the wine that he got was one of Sunita's favourites, and that got him thinking, oh yeah, she died 10 and a bit years ago.
And I forgot about it, and I didn't mention it at the time, but now I've remembered. And he sits down with a picture, and he's sort of saying to Aadi, oh, she'd be so proud. And then he puts his hand down the side of the sofa, and he finds a bracelet, and he's like, oh, what's this? And Aadi's like, oh, it's Ash's, give it to me, I'll make sure to give it back to you. And Dev's like, oh, you're such a kind-hearted, thoughtful child. And that's that.
Yeah, I was just a little bit disappointed that Aadi was able to put those flames out before the inferno started raging over the bracelet. Because when Dev finds it, I thought, oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, he just says it's Ash's. You know, I don't know whether anything's going to come of this. I suppose there's no reason for Aadi to go running to Courtney now to say, wait, before you go on your cruise, you must have your bracelet. So I'm guessing that this story is just going to sit tight for 3 weeks.
Or maybe Dev's going to say something to Asher about the bracelet.
He could say that, but then that sounds like the sort of thing that could be a cliffhanger, and then for the break, and then after the break, Asher goes, oh yeah, thanks Aadi, because...
Yeah.
Does she know?
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't know at the moment, does she? It's just that Amy that knows. So maybe Amy and her could have a conversation about it. Although I don't think Amy would betray Aadi's confidence.
Asher's bright enough to think, why is my brother asking me to pretend this is my bracelet? I guess it belongs to a girlfriend. I'm going to say it's mine, and he's going to have to bloody tell me what's going on.
Although I think if I was Asher, like I'd be like, oh, I'd want to make a big thing of it about, oh, Aadi's got a girlfriend, like because. She could very well just say, it's not mine, he must have a girlfriend. This is hilarious.
Well,
He's only had one girlfriend before, R. Kelly.
Yeah, it depends on what she depends on how desperately Aadi looks at her with his eyes.
Yeah. So I'm
what?
I'm just enjoying everything about this story so far. I'm particularly pleased that Amy is having this reaction, and she's just so sensible, isn't she? In this storyline, which, you know, let's be fair to it, is made up of comedic or over the top sort of characters. You got Dev, who's say no more. You got Courtney, who's over the top, boobs pouting kind of girl, and you got Aadi, who is still being a bit goofy about everything. Amy just comes across as being totally sensible voice of reason in the whole thing, and I think I'm enjoying the element that she's bringing to it, and I think that coming out of the Aaron storyline, she's obviously got a very recent perspective on unhealthy relationships.
Yeah, but I don't like this idea that she's in the wrong here, because the show wants this to be sexy sex.
I don't think we are supposed to think that she's in the wrong.
But then
I think that we're supposed to be also watching onto it and saying,
so.
well, I'm going to watch this completely catch fire and watch this bridge crumble, and Amy's right, but Amy's going to come off at the end of this being in the I told you so position, and I think we're kind of supposed to be on her side.
I guess you can watch something... It's one of these things, like, some people are going to say you can't be coerced if you want it to. It's not wrong if you both want this relationship, but
do you think that's why they're having him say that?
That's not what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing not that at all, and I would argue that there are certain situations where it is never appropriate at all, ever, even if both people think that is what they want. There's just not, it should not ever be accepted. Like, for example, teacher-pupil relationships in, you know, any relationship like that, just wait until you're out of school, and then if you want to pursue the relationship, whatever. But anyone who's got a position of power over anyone else, I'm just always going to say, I don't think it's, even if you both think it's good, I just think it's wrong.
And I think these things probably do happen an awful lot in real life as well, I'm going to say. But you're right, he's definitely showing that he'd rather the whole situation just went away. But yeah, on the other hand, he's saying, I'm actually loving this because he's just a horny teenager.
I can't.
We all know he's gonna fall flat on his face, and the business is the deal's not gonna go through, and it's all.
Yeah, but at the end of it, we're not gonna have gone, oh yeah, it is wrong to prey on teenagers.
Yeah, I think that, you know, probably at the end of it, the final scene of Courtney and Darren are just going to be them bickering off into the distance, and that'll be the end of that, and she won't really have learned a lesson.
The other thing that we say quite often on the show, on this podcast, is everything can't be an issue storyline. Exactly,
and I'm glad that they're having this one that is kind of skirting along being an issue storyline, but it definitely isn't one.
But my issue
and I'm
is
feeling,
that
I'm good. I'm not needing to learn or be moral about this.
Come off the back of one that we've. The Amy storyline, it's just come off the back of it.
Yeah, but this is something different. I don't mind, and I'm sorry to all the people that are getting very outraged about this, and I know that there's a lot of people that are feeling that. But
it's good to have two different points of view. We can't always agree on everything, and you know, the thing is, it does send problematic messages that make people think this is acceptable. That's all I would say.
It does. I'm a bit disappointed that I'm guessing we're going to have a 3-week gap in this now. I'm looking forward to this and coming back later in August.
My biggest problem with the storyline is that they're not as rich as they say they are, because why would Courtney be running around with a plastic bag instead of a...
Oh yeah, you didn't like her bag, did you?
Her bag is so cheap looking. The way the strap was like standing up on its side because it's made of plastic. It's like, come on.
Well, if you spend all your money on milkshakes, then you got to cut...
Are you telling me that none of the actresses in the show have got like a handbag that they don't use anymore that is expensive that they could lend you? Really?
Maybe they don't like the actress. No, like my bag.
Give her a plastic bag.
My biggest problem with this storyline is it's made me realise that it's 10 years since Anita died. I couldn't believe that when they brought it up.
See, I was saying last week, I can't believe I watched Aadi grow from a baby into a man. And you're like, whatever. And this week you're like, Snea's been dead 10 years. Can't be true.
Again, thinking about it, it makes sense because, you know, Paul Kershaw's wife was in it. She died in 2012, the year the podcast started, and then he was the one that was how was that?
I don't know how this is linked.
He was the fireman that was involved in putting out the fire that was at the Rovers. That must have been 2013, I guess. But I would never have thought it was that long. But what do you know? It was. Nice to.
How does this link into Aadi and Ash's time jump aging?
Well, yeah, exactly. Don't go down.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I'd be interested to see if they do have some kind of tribute to Sunita, because it sounded like
they've had one. That was it. They just did it.
Well, no, they were talking like we need to have some kind of thing to mark the 10-year anniversary, the belated 10-year anniversary of Sunita's death.
They could ask the actress to come back.
Would be quite nice. Get Shobna to come in and do something.
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the
she could come back. Aadi, you're making a mistake.
Poor Paulie Paul now. Yeah, it's just Anita. There's a couple of characters that have got smiling portraits that just gleam down on all the drama. There's Sunita,
Betty.
She's always there. Betty, Deirdre in number one, that one of her going...
Deirdre's always gurning it. Everybody's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Paul storyline. Really good week this week, and we got to see more of Shelly, who I very much enjoy as a character. So Billy's offering to come along to the MND clinic with Paul at the beginning of the week. He said, I've got a meeting about sustainability and climate change in the church, which I'd rather not go along to be honest. Paul's like, no, it's fine. You lovely to have someone as supportive as you, but I'll go myself. So he gets there to the hospital, clinic, whatever. I was a bit confused about where it was supposed to be. Was it Weatherfield General? I don't know. It looked an awful lot like it. And Shelly is there. So she was the lady in the wheelchair last week at the MND support group, and just so happens to bump into Paul again the very next episode.
Well, I mean, it's not really surprising. They're both at an MND clinic.
True, but you know, is this clinic kind of running all the time, or is it just a once a month thing?
Well, little I know about hospitals is that they do have clinics where they'll have a day where everybody has an appointment who needs something for that.
Oh, well, there we go.
Well, because they do different things on different days. Like some doctors will only do appointments on one day because they do surgeries for the rest of the week.
All right.
For example.
Did you see? Here's a bit of trivia. Did you see that the place where they filmed the M&D support group was the same building that the AA meeting was?
Yes,
the Blanche and Peter at the AA meeting.
Nice.
Which was 14 years ago. So Shelley's there.
MND is not as funny as alcoholism.
No. He sits there kind of awkwardly for a few seconds after their brief meeting last week, and then he apologises for running off, and she's like, don't worry about it, look, everybody does. I did the first time that I went there. It's scary kind of looking at, you know, what your future could be. But, you know, what's going on in that room is your future. You can't run away from it. And then she just kind of gets
really
in.
Dark.
She's very, very dry and dark in her sense of humour, isn't she? I love it. I think it's great that he's being confronted with somebody who has clearly come to terms.
She's uncompromising
with what's going to be happening to her. So
being honest.
Yeah, she's fab. And she talks about it being a great place for death hacks, so like tips for what to do before you kick the bucket. And she says, oh, you can get away with saying or doing anything. I bet I could get away with murder. And he's like, I got away with stealing a car. So as they're sitting there, he kind of warms up to her sense of humour, which is quite nice. And he makes a few jokes as well. And she's like, yeah, nice one.
I wonder whether she by virtue of sitting in this building when the other week where Blanche was once at her perhaps peak, maybe she's infused with the spirit of Blanche.
Maybe. I think it's one of those nice things that, you know, this story is obviously mega miserable and sad, but there have been moments of levity, like the darts tournament the other week, and this character is another one that's been brought in to be funny and like.
How would you say that this was compared to Sinead's story?
I mean, Sinead,
I never watched any of Sinead.
You stopped watching at some point, didn't you? I can't remember when you stopped watching it, but Sinead did have her kale smoothie drinking friend, didn't she?
What, who killed her? What?
No, Sinead's friend.
I thought her friend was the one who killed her by telling her not just to drink smoothies.
She did a little bit.
Well, that's not...
It's more comparable, I'm thinking, in more than one way, to Hayley's story. Because there's obviously the self-assisted suicide or whatever what do they call it? Self-killing?
The thing is, if it's self-assisted suicide, it's just a suicide, isn't it?
Okay, assisted suicide, assisted killing is what they call it, and that was obviously a thing with
assisted killing.
I think that's what they called it. Yeah, they didn't use the word suicide in this. I don't know why.
They've got to couch it very carefully and in a kind of
they've got to look at the
like
sensitive way to
gently,
put it.
shush, night, forevers.
So that was Hayley obviously went down that route, but Hayley also had a friend that she met at a pancreatic cancer support group, and I think she might have been quite kind of frank and outright about, I got pancreatic cancer, or what can I do about that? And then that character dies, and it kind of puts things into perspective for Hayley. So if they go down the same route, then maybe Shelley's not going to be long for this world.
I don't think she will be.
You don't think she will be? Do you think we're going to see her?
I think she's the one that dies to prove the situation is serious. Just like one of those red shirts in Star Trek.
I thought it was interesting how Paul tries to ask Shelly, how long have you... He doesn't even get a chance to get the question out, does he? He wants to know, like, how far down the road is she? And she's like, stop there. You can't measure your progress against mine. Everyone's disease is different, and it'd drive you crazy to think, well, if she's this many months, and that means I'm going to be like that in that many months as well. So I thought that was a brilliant way of kind of her saying, you've got to accept what's going to happen to you, but you can't let it completely control you, otherwise it's going to drive you crazy.
Yeah.
So she's there just giving him some important messages, but also delivering a few funny psyche quips as well. And then Paul gets called in, and she says, "Ask the doctor whether you'll still be able to play the piano." And look at the look on his face.
I think that she was being quite classist to assume Paul couldn't play the piano.
Well, they did have a piano in the flat for just a bit, didn't they? Till old scrote bag destroyed it, whatever his name was. Yeah, and then you can tell that Paul is warming up to her way of looking at things, because when he comes out of the appointment later, she says, "How was your appointment?" And he says, "I'm cured."
I thought that was hilarious.
I thought that was a really nice way of them bonding over, the dark humour over the situation.
Yeah.
And he starts asking her about the food tube that she's got going around the back of her and up her nose, and they have a bit of a laugh about that, and she talks about it being hard to squeeze a bacon butty through it, and he's then the mood drops when he's like, "You know what, I'm really scared about this," and she says that she is too. If you weren't scared, there really would be something wrong with you, but you need to take back control of your life, plan for the future while you still can, and if there's anything you want to do, like jump out of a plane, like Bill Roach, or get married, now's the time. So this puts the idea into the audience head, oh, maybe Paul's going to propose to Billy, because we've all been thinking it for yonks, haven't we? Is this going to lead to Corrie's first gay wedding? And although it ends up going down that way, there's a nice little kink in the road where he has got something else that he wants to ask Billy first.
This wedding setup is interesting to me, because I remember when Rana and Kate were going to get married, and then Rana died, and everyone was getting up in arms and complaining about the kill your gays trope. This is literally could not get any more feeding into that
I know.
issue that they've had.
Gonna have a tragic wedding.
Where that Paul's going to die. There's no way out of this. It's not like he's going to... Yeah, there's no cure. They didn't misdiagnose him.
I can totally see further down the line, is Paul gonna keel over and die, or take some kind of noxious liquid at the wedding on the honeymoon?
No.
And the people, or is he... Something's going to happen on the wedding day that's going to make things worse. And then I can see the people on Twitter in uproar saying, "Oh yeah, kill the gays. Just you may well have got onto your first gay wedding 20 years too late, Coronation Street, but don't pat yourselves on the back too much, because you're killing one of them off." You can see it happening, but I don't know if there's much of a way around it.
Not in this scenario, unfortunately.
No.
I just think they don't care. I just think that it's not they don't care about what people think, is that they can't... It's a very small amount of people who talk about this on Twitter. They just seem like they're a much bigger group than they are. And Coronation Street cannot just worry about memes and tropes and people getting upset about them. And it is unfortunate that this happens, but they've got to tell a story, and I'd rather that they had a gay wedding at all.
I think I would as well. And I think one of the things that does make this different still from the Kate and Rana is there doesn't seem to be a huge contingent of Paul and Billy shippers.
No.
There were some really obsessed Kate and Rana fans, just like, the Rob Ron fans on Emmerdale. I'm not seeing loads of people saying, "Oh yeah, Paul and Billy forever."
Not at the moment.
I've made my feelings about them clear in the past, and I think that I prefer Todd and Billy. I think I prefer Sean and Billy. But actually, in the past month or two, both Dan and Paul have done some great work in making me properly care for this couple a lot more. So yeah, I happily see them get married. It is about time, but obviously we know where it's going to lead.
My prediction has been the same for a while now. Paul is going to heroically sacrifice his life in some way to save somebody, and now I've decided that it's going to be involved in the Stephen storyline.
Why not?
Because the thing is, okay, we'll get to it, but I don't think they're going to repeat history again.
I would hope not, because it's 9 years since Hayley ended up taking her own life, and it feels very, very recent, just like Sunita's death did, I suppose. And I think if they made it go down exactly that same route, it would feel like they're just copying themselves.
And I also just want to say too that you don't want to get into the situation where you're like, well, the only solution if you have a terminal illness is to off yourself before you become a burden.
Yeah, and it's not just Coronation Street that's done this as well. I know that definitely EastEnders did, because they had Dot Cotton helping somebody to end their life, didn't they? And I'm pretty sure Emma. I mean, I assume it's a soap staple now that they've all done it a little bit. But you're right, you don't want to make it out like this the only way out.
Yeah, and it's not weird that he's thought about this. Anyway, we're all getting ahead of ourselves, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, because Billy is told by Paul, oh, I've got something important that I want to ask you in the flat later. Yeah. So Billy gets all excited, thinking, finally, at last. I mean, I don't know why I suppose Billy hasn't proposed to him because he might think, well, that's a little bit inappropriate. Like, does he really want to marry me?
Well, I was really confused about how excited Billy was, thinking, why didn't you instigate this yourself?
Yeah, no, I just think that there's a big risk of Paul saying, what the hell, you want to get married when I'm about to die? How dare you think about that? I think...
Oh yeah, Billy, or him, Paul saying, I don't really care about marriage. It's just not important to me. I'm not religious. I don't see the point of it.
I think I understand completely Billy's hesitancy to be the one to make the first move.
Billy tells Summer, doesn't he, that he thinks that he's going to propose. And,
so Summer vacates the flat so that Paul can come back later, and in a very long-winded and slightly cringy way.
Well, he's sitting there trying to build up the courage to ask Billy this serious question, and it's nothing he says is kind of like, this is going to be a happy question. But Billy's sitting there like with this beatific smile on his face, looking utterly thrilled.
Well, Paul's kind of saying, like, I know this isn't going to go down well with you in the church, and Billy's like, yeah, that's definitely wedding.
I don't care about that.
And I can't remember what else he says, but there are little clues in the way he says it that Billy, if he's got it into his head he's about to propose to, then this is absolutely going to confirm the idea in his mind. But
it made me laugh because the script was great, because it was like, this is what you would kind of say if you're going to ask him to marry you, but equally the expressions did not match each other at all, because
it's a solemn matter, isn't it, a proposal?
But Billy's like going, and Paul's like, listen, Billy.
Anyway, he asks him if he's going to help him to end his own life when the time comes. That it's not like a straight away thing, is it? So when I get to the stage that I can't feed myself, I'm going to need help to do absolutely everything.
Speak, and I need you to be able to step up.
Yeah.
And carry out my wishes, which are to not be alive anymore.
Yeah. He comes to this conclusion very quickly, didn't he?
It was based on this.
It was based on what Shelly said,
where she says, "You've got to take back control. The only thing we've got is free will, and when everything else is taken away from you, you could at least think, I can pick when I die. If I'm going to have to die, I want to be able to pick when it happens." And Paul gets this fixed in his head, because all he can think about is how his body will deteriorate and his abilities will be taken away from him.
And I'm sure he has been thinking about that for the last few months, but I think he jumped to asking Billy to help him out just a little bit quickly. He may have had these thoughts, and I suppose, to be fair, he did say, look, I'm going to do my research first. I want to find out how we can, do it properly, and there's other countries that you can go to and everything. But yeah, I think he vocalized his thoughts about it just a little bit too soon.
I don't know. I think it's good that he's open with Billy about it.
It's a big decision to make over the course of an afternoon.
He doesn't have a lot of time. And it's
quite.
Not like theoretical to him, is it? It's not like, if I ever get to the stage where it's like, when that happens, this is what I want. Yeah. So Billy's not happy about this.
No, he's like livid. He's like, you can't be serious. And Paul says, look, I really am. Can you think about it? You said you love me. And Billy's like, this isn't fair. How can you be putting this on me? Paul says, don't you talk to me about fair. Look at all the stuff that I'm having to go through at the moment. Yeah. The least you could do is, help me, go along with my wishes with this. And he's like, please, let's just talk about it. But Paul says, I'm not depressed. I'm being being realist about this. I don't want to get in the way of people. I don't want to get to the point where I have to sit there suffering while everyone else makes decisions for me.
Yeah.
Billy's like, no way. I'm not going to help you with this. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. It's against the law. It goes against my beliefs. I can't do this. So Paul says, look, just let me do my research first. And Billy's like, no, I'm not talking about this. And I definitely got some thoughts about some of the things that Billy said about his beliefs and his priorities with that this week. But again, at this point, I think this is absolutely the right or a believable reaction from Billy. And if he'd have just kind of gone along with it straight away, I wouldn't have bought that. So
I agree with
I'm
you.
glad, again, that Paul kind of got a strip torn off him by Billy at this point. To dump this, yes, he's going through an awful situation, but to just out of nowhere drop this onto your boyfriend, that's kind of a bit harsh, I think, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's gonna go through something unimaginable and tragic, but so is Billy.
Yeah.
Billy is going to have to watch this happen and then live with that afterwards. And, he's perfectly prepared to do whatever Paul wants, but this is the one thing he can't do for him.
He would do anything for love.
But he won't do that.
Right.
So Billy walks off. He's like, I'm not talking about it. I'm not even going to talk about it.
So Paul starts boggling away and finds a place in Switzerland where you can have assisted suicide, and he does a little bit of currency conversion, and it turns out that would cost him upwards of £13,000. He's like, but everything that I want to do just costs money at the moment.
Yes, it's cost of living.
Yeah. And inflation's just gone up again today. But it's all right because this was happening last week.
Cost of dying.
Yeah, exactly. The
You worried about the cost of living?
Cost of dying's
even more expensive than that.
You can't win.
It's tragic.
So he gets maudlin about that, goes to the pub, gets some drinks, they get some shots of blue stuff from Jenny. Jenny's a bit concerned about him. And then Summer finds Billy in Victoria Gardens later, and he's saying, look...
Well, she says, oh, were you engaged? And he's like,
no. Nope. But he doesn't tell him what Paul has been saying. Thank goodness. Sorry. Because she is still... just a kid at the moment, and I think that
you could tell putting
that burden onto her would have been a bit too much.
She can tell she's a kid because she's got her headphones around her neck.
Yeah, that's what they all do. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Michael. No. We could still be in the running for young.
Yeah, if Todd can get young funeral director of the year, he's the same age as us. We can still get it. Exactly.
Hold on to that.
So Gemma's with Paul in the pub at the moment, and he's saying, no, I'm fine, just leave me alone, nothing wrong with me. Paul, Todd is there kind of watching on and showing a bit of concern as well, takes the shot glass away from him, and Paul opens up to him because
he wants his booze back
about what's going on today, and Todd can't believe this. You want to kill yourself. This goes against everything that Billy believes in. This is massive. I can't believe that you are annoyed about how Billy's reacted to this. Really, you need to talk to Billy as soon as you can. But as part of that conversation as well, Todd also I think Paul says something like, wouldn't you want to do the same if you were in the position that I'm in? And Todd's like, well, yeah, I guess I would. And with those words, we kind of get the idea that Todd is maybe going to be willing to help Paul where Billy can't.
I know, this storyline, I feel like it's either going to end with Todd killing Paul or Paul sacrificing his life for somebody, but...
I really, really, really don't hope it goes the way of Billy helping Paul die. And I've got... in my head, I've got a feeling that one of the other soaps has done an assisted suicide storyline with somebody high up. I mean, the fact that Dot Cotton was a massive Christian, wasn't she? And she was the one that had to help her friend die. I've got a feeling that there's another person who, in another soap, who went through the same thing, and it went against my relief. So it feels a little bit cliche to have Billy saying, well, yes, I am an archdeacon, but if you need me to end your life, I'll do it. I think he really needs to stick to his beliefs and his principles and everything here. And I think that Todd now has got the... he's got the in to be the one to help Paul out if they go down this route.
I think some people don't really understand the nature of religious belief, because it's not the same as morality. It's not like Billy's like, no, but God really says no, so I have to listen to what God says. Like, you can't eat fish. You have to eat fish on a Friday, or you have to celebrate Christmas. None of those are in the Bible, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not like it's not like a custom that's grown out of religious belief. This is a thing where I think that you will go to hell.
And that he thinks he will if he plays a part in it.
This is a sin. It goes against the 10 Commandments, which are like pretty basic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really. The thing is about the Bible too is that you can pick something out of it and say this, and then you can pick something else out of it and say
Billy's the worst for that, isn't he? I mean, look at it. The fact that the part of the discussion in these episodes are about them getting married, and
we'll talk about that in a minute.
But
I mean.
This is...
In the Bible, though, the only real... When Jesus comes back for part 2, the main thing he says is, you have to love God, and if you love God, everything's fine. And you can be forgiven of whatever you've done. But I don't think that counts if it's suicide. I just think...
I don't know.
But if that's Billy's religious belief, he can't change it for Paul, and I would... never ask somebody to go against their belief to do something that would make them like if Billy really truly thinks that suicide is like a mortal sin, he couldn't be asked to do it, because he would forever then think, I have not only killed my boyfriend/husband, I have damned his soul to eternal suffering. But
I don't know at the moment whether Billy thinks that he's going to be, partying with the angels anyway, because there's still the whole matter of, is he going to get baptised?
I know, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying about how... But my point is not that... My point is that religious belief is a different thing to morality. And with morality, you can say, yeah, I don't think that's morally correct, but I can understand the arguments, and perhaps I'll be willing to do something that's morally incorrect for the greater good. There's no such thing as the greater good here. There is only God and what God says and what Billy thinks God said. And if he thinks that this is wrong, he cannot do it. And it's wrong to ask him to. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's a combination for Billy, I think, of being against his religious beliefs and what he thinks is morally acceptable.
But
so
I'm
it's
not
a double
arguing
whammy.
about that. I'm just saying that religious belief is non-negotiable. And it doesn't matter whether you think that's right or wrong. It's a fact. You cannot argue with somebody's religious belief. You can only,
I just think that sometimes the way that Billy's strength of faith is portrayed on the show isn't what it should be to be an archdeacon. This week, he was literally saying to Paul, you are more important to me than God. I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but they were talking about where they're going to get married or whatever, and like, you're my priority now, he was basically saying. And to have an archdeacon saying to his boyfriend, and is he just saying it because it's what he wanted to hear? I don't believe he would say that. If you're going out with an archdeacon, or just somebody who's a very strong Christian, you got to accept that for them, God will come first. But here's Billy this week saying, "Oh no, you come first, Paul." So it's no wonder that Paul thinks, "Well, maybe I can persuade him to help me out in this."
It was a quite strange thing for Billy to have said that. It's like I said, religious people aren't pretending. They're not putting it on for their own convenience. And sometimes, maybe their beliefs are convenient and they pick and choose, but everybody picks and chooses to a certain extent about what they think is true and what isn't true. I don't think that Christians or any other religion are more hypocritical than the average person, even though lots of people would disagree with me. But if you believe something in a religious sense, it is non-negotiable.
Yeah. So,
and then, unfortunately, that can be very sad sometimes. For example, if you think that being homosexual is wrong, there are people who disown their children, and I think that's awful. But again, that's their religious belief. I'm not saying you have to respect your religious beliefs, but what you do have to do is accept that is something that is a very deep
core to them.
I can't understand it, but that's not the point, is it?
But with all of this though, it's like, well, that's what makes juicy drama, and I can just see them going down this route, and I really, really, really hope they don't go down the route where Billy goes through with it. And, for all we know, Paul's not going to end up taking this route. I think it's an interesting alleyway for the story to go down, and it's a fairly, makes sense for the story to want to go down the assisted dying route. They don't have to follow through, that's all I'm saying. Just because the character thinks that they might want to do it, it doesn't mean you have to do it. It's an interesting little subplot without it following through to that conclusion.
But again, I just want to say that just because I'm saying this about Billy doesn't mean I agree with him or anybody's, if somebody's religion is, I chop cats' heads off and throw them in a bin, and it's my sincere and religious belief that that is what you have to do. I'm not going to say, yeah, okay, you should be able to do that. I'm just saying it's a core belief. You can't, you have to understand that is, and the other thing I like about Billy here is that he's been problematic in a kind of modern cultural way about other things previously, like when Summer was talking about having an abortion.
Yeah.
And he went completely ballistic. And he was like, you can't literally, that's murder. And I think that's good. And the thing that
he's just making up for all those drugs he did in the church,
yeah,
isn't he? He's like, I'm going to really, really stick to the rules now.
I think it's good.
Come on, my last chance, for God.
I think it's good that they're honestly portraying somebody with Christian beliefs, because sometimes these beliefs do come into conflict with what modern society and modern culture says.
Yeah, and like I said, that's why it makes
it doesn't
good
mean
drama.
I agree with them, but I do understand that is their religious belief. Okay, it's just saying the same thing over and over again. I just want to make it very clear that I don't agree with everything, but I like the portrayal of somebody having their beliefs.
Yeah, and I appreciate the addition of Todd to the storyline as well, who's maybe going to... Because later on... Okay, so basically, we'll cut back to Todd in a minute. Paul gets home, finds Billy setting the table, and Paul says, look, changed my mind. Don't want to end my life anymore. I've had a chat with... This is kind of adds into what I was saying earlier, that he decided he wanted to do it very quickly, and now he's been supposedly talked out of it very quickly. But I suppose, if you're going through this situation, you will just make these snap decisions and say, well, I can't control anything. I can't even imagine what it was like, but what it'd be like. But anyway, he says that I wasn't thinking straight.
Yeah.
What?
I was just going to say one more thing about religion. Sorry... I want them to do this with other religions too. I think the closest we ever got was with
well, there was Rana and being gay.
That's what I was trying to say. Who was it? The brother.
Zidane.
Zidane was like, no, it's not.
But they still pussyfooted around that,
yes,
didn't
I know.
they?
This is what bothers me. They are prepared to be controversial and problematic. I'm using inverted commas because everybody's got their own opinion about what's problematic about Christianity and what, having Billy say abortion is wrong, suicide is wrong, always and forever, no exceptions. But they don't really want to do that with any other religion, and I can see why, but I just think it's a shame because there's a lot of when
Rana
but people aren't responsible with
when Rana was going around fancying Kate, the family was saying, Sarah was saying, that our family, our friends will disown you or whatever, and they didn't quite want to say because the Quran says or anything.
Yeah.
But they're more willing to talk openly about it when it's Christianity, which is, I guess, a religion that more of the viewers will be familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm glad that they're talking more about Billy's faith in the storyline.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, Billy says, "Look, I was expecting a proposal earlier, to be honest." And Paul says, well, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea. Will you marry me? I'm not going to get down on one knee or anything. And so he kind of gives a semi-proposal, and Billy's thrilled, and they have a hug, and then Summer comes in, and they all have a lovely celebration together. So now we have a new engaged couple on the street, go back to the Rovers to announce their news, and everyone's chuffed for them. I think Eileen was there as well. Todd's looking a bit confused because...
Yes, 1 minute he's there going, I'm going to go and ask Billy to kill me.
Yeah, and he's like, Paul, is this really what you want? You want to carry on living when you can't do anything for yourself anymore? And Paul says, yeah, of course. Which is why I think it is just a nice little breadcrumb that's been left that may be further down the line. I don't know whether Todd's going to be like, yeah, sure, I got quite into the idea of helping you along the way now, getting a bit of extra business for myself.
If Shelly were to be involved in this conversation, she might say something like, Todd can even get him sat down in the coffin and
she
already
could,
prepared.
She could make some brilliant dry quips. So maybe Shelly will die, and that will, like you say, kick Paul into thinking, you know what, that's now staring me in the face. This is what I am confronted with. Why not just get there, tear the plaster off now? And
oh God,
I don't know.
I know we're being very flippant about this.
Todd,
but
can you be there to help me?
Traumatic.
And that would obviously cause some great conflict between Billy and Todd. I don't... It's difficult, isn't it? I don't want it to go that way because it seems too easy, and it does seem not long since Hayley. But equally, I can see how tempting it might be if you're in charge of this storyline and thinking, you know, can we have Peter Ash portray this condition as it worsens and worsens and worsens, or is that going to actually be very, very difficult to do? I mean, they managed to make Sinead look kind of poorly at the end, but this is a whole, you know, different ball game. You know, the amount that he's going to need to be wasting away and everything, I assume. So it probably is quite tempting to want to end the story. He's been told it could be 3 years.
3 years long. This story's going to be over by the end of the year.
You reckon?
Right.
I'm not.
Prediction: Christmas. Stephen's trying to kill somebody. Paul's there. Todd and Paul have made a plan that by the end of the year, or very early in January, because January's boring and crap anyway, Todd will kill Paul and pretend it was natural causes, and so that Billy will never find out. So they've got this pact, and then Stephen's gonna, I don't know, run over Sarah or Louise or something, and Paul and Billy are two sides of the road, and Billy sees Paul's eyes, and he can tell that he's gonna sacrifice himself, and he's like, no, don't do it. And then Paul's like, I have to, and then he sort of lurches in front of the car and dies.
Yeah, there's only so much leaping in front of things that Paul's probably going to be able to do in January.
Maybe he'll have a wheelchair and he can just... That would be more difficult to drive through as well.
I'm still wanting, speaking of wheelchairs, I'd love for Izzy to be involved in this a bit more. Maybe she will come into it when the wheelchair is
Did he not talk to her about
He did. He had like one scene with her. It felt like a token, of course, let's get Izzy involved. I'd like there to be more integration there, especially now Sherry Lee is back on the street. And I'd also, if they're going to go down the assisted suicide route, surely Roy's got to be involved in this, even if it's just a conversation, because he was completely against Hayley doing this,
even up to the point,
right to the very end. He wasn't happy with it. He led her to believe that he was okay with it towards the end, but he never was, and he led there on the bed with her as she drank her noxious toxic concoction, but he was never up for it. And then afterwards he was
so angry at her.
Yeah, he was angry at her, angry at himself. He didn't want to go to her funeral, did he? Because of the way he believed that she'd manipulated him. So I think that Roy would probably have an awful lot to say about this.
Maybe
and it would kind of make sense that's
Paul off.
Yeah, maybe. I hope that we get a chance to find out, because David Nilsson is still knocking it out of the park with every performance he gives. So absolutely make good use of that.
So do you think Paul would be like, hey, Roy, you killed your wife, didn't you, when she was sick? Is that good or bad?
Well, I would maybe Paul, Roy's going to...
I don't think anyone knows, apart from...
I can't remember.
I think only a few people know, including Carla.
Carla and Anna.
Yeah.
But if it is out there, and honestly...
I don't think it is.
Have you really... I honestly have got no idea. Let's say it is. Or maybe Roy overhears people talking about it.
Very loudly about it.
Sticks his neb in. If he says, the way that I felt towards Hayley for the period after her death, I wouldn't want Billy feeling that about you.
It wasn't...
And maybe that's what...
It wasn't an easy thing. It didn't feel like the right choice for me.
Yeah.
And she made her decision, and I supported her, and I guess I regret it.
Yeah, I think he did. But then Kathy came along, and he soon forgot about her.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wednesday's episode starts off with Summer helping them to find wedding venues later. Scarborough is one of them, and I can't remember where else. But Paul's a bit surprised that they're not looking into churches, considering Billy's job and everything. But Billy says, look, this is what he says, I've devoted my life to that place, and now I'm devoting it to you. And I'm like...
So, hang on a minute. This isn't like a busman's holiday. This is like one of... Well, if
Spend all
you're...
the time in churches.
I'm not going there for
Go
my
to a football
wedding.
stadium or something.
You wait till you find out what I've got planned for my funeral.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the most significant moments in your life. If you are going to get married, you would want to get married in church because the Bible... I don't know. I'm not even going to get into it.
Billy has shown surprisingly
Somewhat
little care, but I suppose he's been thinking about the subject of marriage when he's been going out with Todd and Sean before that, and he maybe has made peace with the fact that that's not on the cards for him.
He's not getting... He cannot get married in the Church of England.
No, he said maybe we can go for a blessing, and Paul's like, well, that's not the same thing. But
The thing is...
I guess maybe that's where they'll go to.
You can still have a civil partnership, can't you?
I don't remember.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I would love to sit the character of Billy
With who?
down.
In the church?
No, not in the church.
No.
You can have a wedding or a civil partnership.
Yeah.
But I want to sit the character of Billy down and, like, say, look, don't get offended, but I really want to know what's going on in your head.
I don't think that civil partnership is as big a thing anymore. Since gay people have been able to get married, since gay marriage has been legalised, civil partnership, I think, has become a little bit less necessary, because that was the stepping stone in a way for some couples, wasn't it? I don't know. So anyway, Bernie comes around. She puts her foot in it by talking about some of the big venues. They get booked up years in advance. You don't want those. And then she's like, oh yeah, you haven't got years, have you? Paul doesn't mind though, because he wants something that means something special to the pair of them. I'm thinking, where's Bistro?
Yeah.
Victoria Gardens, it's right outside our window. Rover's Return, Chariot Square would be lovely. Oh, please, anything other than that. And I think if Corrie's going to do their first proper gay wedding, do not put it at one of those boring places. Make it somewhere that's going to be memorable, please. Anyway, they haven't decided by the end of the
If Phil with 2 L's can have a beautiful... marquee full of flowers.
Phil with 2 L's gets a mega wedding. That's the least they can have for Corrie's first gay wedding.
Emma and horrible Curtis had a really lovely wedding.
I know. Anyway, didn't they not get married?
They didn't get married.
No, I thought they were at Chariot Square though.
Well, it was decorated more nicely than usual.
Usually is, yeah. Anyway, Shelly's coming round later, Paul says, and Billy seems pleased about this. Bernie looks a bit concerned because I suppose for her she's still thinking that I'm going to look at the future of my son. But they don't really go down that route, particularly when she does arrive. I've got a little bit of a notes from the Darren and Dev storyline here. Nothing particularly important, that's fine. Shelley arrives at the flat with her PA, which is the nickname that she gives to her carer, which is another kind of funny Shelleyism. Cags, this woman's name is. I don't think we got a line out of her. So Shelley says...
She said hello and goodbye, and then she sat and read a magazine.
Yeah. Shelley recommends that they get a stair lift ASAP in the flat.
Well, she says don't wait till you need it, which is fair enough.
Yeah, this was another time of Paul kind of taking on her sense of humour, because he invites her to come up, doesn't he? Come up the flat. Nah, only kidding. I'll come down to you. So the thing
is, I don't know how he's managing to get up the stairs as it is, because he struggles to walk, and he's only got one good arm. It must be a real nightmare for him to get up and down those stairs. Well,
yeah, it's his right arm that's dodgy, isn't it? So when he comes down the stairs, he's not able to hold on to the handrail, which I assume is on the right. I don't know whether they've
got both handrails. I thought they would do.
I don't know, in my head I'm picturing a handrail on the right going down from their flat, but going up the flat, which I suppose would be the harder one, he can still use his left hand to hold
himself. Also, if you have a stair lift...
Too deeply into this, perhaps.
You can use it to get your shopping up and down the stairs, which would be absolutely helpful in an upstairs flat. Think about the future.
Yeah, think about the resale value.
Yeah.
So anyway, they go on to the cafe. Shelley, Billy gets talking to Shelley about Paul looking into a sister dying yesterday, and he says, yeah, but he's changed his mind now. And Shelley says, yeah, some people that's a phase, for others it isn't. Still kind of putting the idea into our heads that this isn't the last we've heard of this. Billy heads off for work later, and Shelley mentions to Paul about the assisted dying, and Paul says, oh, it was just a moment of madness. And Shelley makes a offhand comment later on about things being a moment of madness, doesn't she?
She's like, I can help, talk to me about anything.
Oh yeah.
If you need my help, or if you have questions.
Oh, about the wedding, wasn't it? She says, which was weird, because they go through they sit down there, her, Paul and Billy, and they don't bring up the wedding. They don't bring up the fact that they're engaged. And it happens to be Bernie who comes in later and says, oh, by the way, did he tell you that he and Billy are engaged now? Why didn't this get mentioned before? I don't know. But yeah, Shelly says that she'll help him out with plans, even if it is a moment of madness, the idea of getting married. So, yeah.
No, I think she meant... No, I think she meant the moment of madness was the assisted dying.
No, I don't. I think I can't remember now.
You've written it down that way, and I think I remember it that way. She says the assisted dying. Paul says it was a moment of madness. Getting married to your long-term partner isn't a moment of madness.
I think that she was talking about the... I can't remember.
No, I think she's saying to him, listen, if you still want to do that, it's okay with me and you can talk to me about anything.
Who knows? Who knows?
Because she hasn't said herself whether she has any plans for this.
No.
Maybe she's the character who will end up doing that. Maybe Paul will be asked to help her and then he'll be like, I don't want this for myself.
No. Todd will, though. He's well up for it.
No, I mean, he doesn't want that to happen to him.
Speaking of Shelly, we were pondering on last week's podcast about whether she actually had MND or not, and thinking that would be a bit odd if she did, but then maybe it'd be odd if she didn't, to have somebody portraying it. But she doesn't. The actress is called Shelley Rossington.
No, she's not.
No, so the character, is called Shelley Rossington. The actress is Natalie Amber, and she lost the use of her legs 10 years or so ago, I think it was, maybe it was longer, I can't remember, and she suffered a fall, so she's been in a wheelchair ever since, but she was training to be an actor and a dancer and everything, and she had to have a lot of time off after she had an accident. I don't know what the nature of the accident was, but she's kind of even though she obviously had a break, as you would do, she's not let it stop her pursuing her dream of being a performer. So she's been in Casualty, Doctors, Silent Witness, plenty of things since then. And what?
This is all publicly available. This isn't.
Yeah. This is all. I just got some digital spy.
I know, but I just want to make it clear. This isn't like information.
It's not insider information.
That is not. Is something that Natalie is not wanting anyone to know. I think she's like representing people who are disabled actors, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's different having, say, let's have a character who's got cerebral palsy. Yeah, we'll get the actor who's got cerebral palsy as well, whatever. It's different with this, isn't it? And I think
nobody's arguing that this is inappropriate.
Yeah, but it would be fairly
Nobody's
dark.
Arguing about this. This isn't something you need to worry about. This is perfectly acceptable. She is a wheelchair user. She is portraying a wheelchair user in the show. And
very, very well.
She's fantastic.
I think she's brilliant.
She's really great.
She's so good. Just to add that dark humour, which we love anyway, to a story which could be bleak and miserable, and it still is. But having her, not just drop it, add in a touch of humour to it, in the face of darkness.
Well, this is what I was trying to ask you about when I was asking you about Sinead, because I didn't watch Sinead's story, but I doubt that there was much dark humour.
No, I don't think there
Sinead
was.
and Daniel are not funny. They're not humorous people. But Bernie, Gemma and Paul definitely are. I wouldn't say Billy really is, but they three characters that I feel deal with things in a humorous way, and they kind of say you have to just laugh because they've all struggled in their lives and had a really difficult time. And this is like the greatest test of that, I guess. And it totally makes sense that Paul's, jibing with Shelley's attitude.
Yeah, I thinking I don't know how long it's been since the Sinead storyline, 3-4 years maybe. I don't remember loads of detail about it.
I'm sure that there were moments.
There were moments of lightness, but in the whole, it was fairly tragic. It was the young lovers, the beautiful blonde frail girl that's been taken before her time. She's just given birth to Bertie, isn't it awful? And there was also Beth being snarky and horrible about things, I think, which spoilt it a little bit. Yeah, it didn't quite have that same level of humour.
Same raucous comedy as we're getting with Paul's story.
No, I think it's great.
Anyway, we've spoken a lot about.
I want to see more Bernie in this, because she could also bring the comedy to it, and we got the stuff about her wanting an astrological themed wedding
star
cake
signs on the top
before, which was fun. But I'd like to see a bit more of her next time.
I think that if I was Paul, I would have asked Bernie to help me leave the world.
God, that would have been tough.
I think I think all mothers and fathers would say, I'll do anything for my kid. But there are very few who would be able to do this. But I think Bernie would.
Do you?
I think she would. Because I think that she's the sort of mum who can really make tough decisions and actions for her kids.
Gosh, I don't know.
Also don't know what she thinks will happen to Paul.
Well, that's why she didn't seem very happy to see Shelly come along.
No, but she knows he's going to die, but what does she think will happen? She's very spiritual, but what's her idea of the afterlife? I can imagine her thinking that you become one with the universe. Or,
and if, would she help him along the way to say he can get there quicker?
She's like, would she think, I'm releasing your soul to, back to nature, or what does she think?
God, that would be gut-wrenching.
It would be gut-wrenching, but you
Jane
imagine
Hazelgrove
how
would be so
fantastic
good at
that scene would be. Even just the scene of him asking her and her saying, I brought you into the world, I can take you out of the world if that's what you want. I don't want that to happen, but I know that it will happen. And if it's me that does it for you, then...
If he does go down that route, I do hope that there's an awful lot of soul searching on Paul's part before he asks her, and he doesn't just spring it on her like he did with Billy this afternoon.
But sometimes you can ask your parents things, or that's what I mean. Parents, in theory, should be... Not that I think this is great, obviously, and I don't think that anyone should ask their parents this. I always feel like I'm advocating for things that are outrageous on this show in a really kind of
I still, at the end of the day, don't want this to be the way that Paul leaves the programme, but I'm happy for them to skirt around the area. Yeah, no, I don't want it to be that way.
Yeah, but what if it was a really nice jolly holiday for Billy and Paul to go to Switzerland and they can all go and have lovely filming and enjoy the nice holiday?
I don't want it to end that way.
Can you imagine if they had to build an assisted suicide Switzerland
oh my gosh
clinic inside Coronation Street?
They wouldn't do that. They'd just get the Weatherfield General set and stick up a sign in Swiss, you know it.
Yeah, what's this
stick a Toblerone on the side and say, there we go, we're in Switzerland now.
Get a Swiss Army knife. The doctor comes in with a Swiss Army knife going, just got to find the right one for this.
Yeah, just having a piece of Swiss cheese
up
here.
The nose.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we've got the stiff competition storyline, Gemma. Speaking of Todd, over to you.
I'm glad to move on to something...
A little lighter, even though it is about the subject of mortality.
Well, again, people are going to find this in bad taste. But,
What? Yeah, I saw the pictures of this last weekend before we got to watch the episode, and I thought they'll have an award for anything on Coronation Street.
I've never got an award.
I know, but the crime rate's awful. People are murdered left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Everyone's a serial killer, but if you live there, you do have quite a good chance of at least getting nominated for an award.
Yeah,
you got your Gold Heart Award, you got your Weatherfield Samaritan Award, you got awards for everything. Young Stylist of the Year.
Didn't Aggie have a nurse award?
Yeah, she had the Golden Heart Award, didn't she? R. Kelly got the Salon Award. Audrey got her Salon Award as well. It seems to be a bit of an overused trope. I don't think people get nominated for awards quite as much as Coronation Street likes us to think. But like I said, there aren't as many serial killers in real life either.
When Aggie got her Good Samaritan Award for trying to save Robert, even though he died, was everyone like, who? Who did you... I don't remember a guy called Robert. What do you mean? Well, I remember when I worked at the paper very, very briefly as like a work experience, and they were very, unimpressed by people that win awards, because I was like going, look at this guy. I was like, because you get press releases through all the time, and one of them was like, local butcher wins sausage award. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Look, he's won all these awards for his sausages. And I'm like, yeah, but people always, like, the people that win awards are the people that enter awards. Like, you don't...
I'm just bitter because there are actually Teacher of the Year awards, and I've not even had a nomination for that.
No, it's rude.
One of my colleagues did. Emma got nominated for that first year she was a teacher at our school, but
nice.
Didn't get it. But she
nice
was
to be nominated, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Although they did comment on this. Eileen was making a joke out of it, didn't she? Like she said, "What's next? Most promising cat."
promising cat.
It's great.
Yeah, because they never live up to their potential, do they? Oh, yeah.
Right, what happened here, Gemma?
So, Todd's been nominated for Young Funeral Director of the Year. And everyone...
Even he's like, is that really a thing?
And George says, yeah, we used to call them the Stiffies. And he's like, oh, well, I can't wait to get my Stiffy. Anyway.
Keep plenty of jokes about them being... I could have called this storyline Todd Gets a Stiffy, but I'm better than that.
Stiff competition is
Stiff
much
competition
more
is well.
elegant. So, they also talk about the fact that you could get a Lifetime Achievement Award, which Archie got, so that's really nice.
Oh, that was
He
the joke
deserves that.
saying, what did they call the Lifetime Achievement Awards? And George is like, they called it the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Guys and Eileen talk about it in the pub later, and Todd's not interested about it, and Eileen hints that if he goes in for it, he might get a pay rise.
I think that she kind of says to him, "Oh yeah, George was saying she
she
tells
lies
a
and
little
makes
Porky
him.
about that, doesn't he, to try and spur him on, and it works."
So on Wednesday, everyone's George is fussing around Todd because he's going to have a photo shoot, and
With Glenda.
Glenda's there taking the photos, and they're
There was a couple of times this week where characters get brought in. It's like, shall we get an extra in to do this, or should we, why having Glenda being a photographer, okay? And there was also the scene we got with Ed talking about his 33rd, was it, wedding anniversary with Aadi. It's like, that scene was a bit filler. Anyway, I don't mind. I enjoy seeing Ed on screen, but anyway.
He doesn't.
Anyway, so yes, George is defluffing Todd's suit at the beginning of the episode, isn't he, to smite him about what you were saying.
And this is the regional awards for the Best Northern, even though they don't actually say it, just says it on the poster. But there are only 2 candidates, and one of them is,
happen to be from
coincidentally, they're arch rivals from Rest Easy.
I assume there was only 2 candidates. I mean, it's a bit silly to think there was only 2 candidates. I know that it wasn't supposed to be... There was a mystery left at the end about who nominated him, wasn't there? It was supposed to be his boss, but George says, no, it wasn't me. But anyway...
Well, then it should be disqualified because he was ineligible.
Like, maybe...
What?
I don't know
It
whether
doesn't
there was 2
matter.
candidates. There were just 2 people in the interview, which is weird.
That's all we saw. I'm just making a joke.
Sorry. Continue.
It was silly that... And then they had to have an interview.
Anyway,
so Glenda takes a photo and they make Todd wear a funny little hat, and he's like trying to, they're like, look humble, and he's like hunching over.
Yeah, Gareth Pierce did a good job with that.
So funny. Todd says, I'm not doing this for my ego, I'm doing it for the pay rise, and George was like, I don't recall anybody telling you that. That's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, and then Todd's reaction to that is what gives him
the winning photo.
Yeah.
And then the interviews were in Chariot Square Hotel.
Of course they were.
And Todd is... It's like Rest Easy versus Shuttleworth, with Todd and this woman who was called...
Ellie, I think.
Ellie. And she's like...
I was sure when we
What?
watched her, I recognised the actress, but apparently this is the first thing that she's done on TV, so clearly not.
So Todd's going, the value of talking to clients, compassion, helping people in a difficult time. That's what the value of being a young whatever it is of the year.
Funeral director.
And Ellie's like, actually, I don't give a crap about this. Look at my graph about sales figures. And Todd's like...
They could have been a bit more subtle.
It was very, very hammered in your face. Like, this woman thinks that the funeral business is all about money, and Todd only cares about people, which
But
is
you know what?
absolutely
He has
rubbish.
grown, hasn't he? Because when he first became a funeral director,
exactly.
he was trying to get George to change all his business practices.
And upsell.
Yeah, exactly, he was. So he has grown as a character and funeral director since then.
And Todd's like, but we may be old fashioned, but we care. And the guy who's like the interviewer's like, I have a mouth, but I cannot speak.
He's nodding along.
Nod, write everything down. I don't know how they got the question.
He was like looking at the next person saying, Are you gonna come back from that then, eh?
Yeah, what are you going to say to that, Ellie? So back at the pub, Todd's confused because, this is when George says it wasn't me that nominated you. Eileen apologises for lying about the pay rise, but Todd's like, I don't mind. It's inspired me to finish off my funeral director exams.
Which apparently he's doing.
I just had a vision of what that entails. Like,
how many feet down should you bury a corpse?
I'm going to show you a picture of a person. You have to say, dead or alive? Dead. Yes.
Is it going to be like the Shona Rhino test when she was in hospital?
Dead or alive? Alive! Yes!
Actually, undead. That was a trick. Here's a zombie picture.
Oh, well, you get a B.
I'm sure there's a lot of hard
Very
work
important.
that goes into being a funeral director. No, really?
Yeah, I know. I'm just laughing about dead or alive.
I don't want to pee off the funeral directors. They're going to be the ones that have the last say in what happens to us.
Hopefully they won't. They'll forgive us, and however long it takes, and it will be a long time. So Eileen ribboned Todd about the award, but because he obviously is now getting really competitive and he wants to win. Because he didn't like Ellie either. He thought she was a heartless cow.
He probably also came back from that thinking, I've got this in the bag.
Well, she was there going, look at my bar graph.
Yeah.
Anyway, Friday, Todd's pretending to be all like chill about it, but he's obviously over prepared with his aftershave.
The thing is that I don't get, like, maybe the awards are all about who can bury the most bodies in a year, who can make the most money, but I would have thought that, what's his name, Troy, might have known what the feel of the room was going to be when he sent off Ellie to do her pitch for herself. Like, he'd have known it's not about that. I don't know.
Maybe he thought it was a different award. Maybe he was sending her in for the Cutthroat Awards.
Maybe.
So on Friday, I already said that. The ceremony's in Chariot Square as well.
Of course.
They filmed it all in a day. No, probably not. Troy and Ellie arrive and they're like trash talking, like, hey.
So Troy was the guy that George had a scuffle with out on the cobbles a year or so ago. Yeah,
they've got to make sure they got the same guy back for that. They did.
Same actor and everything.
So we see? I don't remember
we didn't
whether
see any of the ceremony.
An
we just
announcement.
No.
We didn't see like a gaggle of kind of like pale-faced, black-suited funeral young hopefuls wanting to make their mothers proud.
No.
Anticipation of
it was over very quickly.
This whole thing makes me feel...
That could have been a funny scene, but maybe they thought better of it.
Maybe, I don't think they do though.
Because like we definitely saw the hairdressing awards. Why not this?
This whole thing makes me think that this year the funeral directors award people were slipping a little bit, and on Monday they were like, oh my god, we've forgotten to do the nominations. just send out a couple of envelopes, and then Wednesday we'll just do the interviews, and Friday we'll just get it out there. Yeah. When have you ever heard of like an award ceremony finding out on Monday and by Friday you've won it?
That is a very good point.
I think that they did it at the last minute, and that's why there's only 2 nominees. Like, they haven't noticed. Can keep going. Anyway, Todd's won. George, there was a 10-minute long speech, and he forgot to thank George or even give him a shout out.
Who did he thank in 10 minutes?
But it wasn't God, was it?
No. I thought, how on earth did he manage to fill 10 minutes without mentioning George, who was the only person?
I would have really liked to have seen this 10-minute long speech of Todd's. What would he say in it?
I don't know. This is the kind of thing where I talk about... I don't really always like it when Coronation Street says about something that's happened and talk about this fantastical scene that was off screen.
You can't have a 10-minute long speech about...
It was like the thing about Glenda taking a picture of George when he was a little whippersnapper being pooed in the mouth by a seagull or something. That didn't happen, did it? It's like a Mary, a Mary story.
That's funny. Anyway, so Troy's not going to admit defeat here, because although his prodigy Ellie hasn't won, he's now interested in poaching Todd. So he's like, oh, I can see. You're not going to last. It won't be long till you fly the nest. And then he writes on a card saying, "Let's talk about your future."
Missing apostrophe.
Can't work for you.
Oh, if Todd had seen this before George had swiped, he'd be like, "Nope, I'm not working for anyone that doesn't know how to use punctuation correctly." Actually, high five, Daniel.
Yeah. How are you gonna proof the gravestones?
Oh yeah, God, nothing worse.
There must be a bunch of urns behind him with just like so-and-so's ashes, but written wrong. Yeah. Anyway, so he puts this like card in Todd's jacket, and George sees this. Back home, George offers Todd an extra £200 a month, before or after tax, George. And Todd's thrilled. Then in the kitchen, we see George pull his hanky out of his pocket, and Troy's card falls out. And it's obvious that George has swiped it to deny Todd his chance to work for Rest Easy. But I don't think Todd would want to work for them, because he doesn't care about making money anymore. He only cares
No, I don't think so.
About giving the dead a good send-off.
I thought it was quite interesting in the end how they did that we didn't see George swipe the card, but it came out at the end.
Yeah, that was an interesting storytelling choice, which I thought worked quite well.
Yes, so did I. I don't know what... Was this supposed to be just like funny filler, or is this going to turn into a big story? I can't see it being more than...
Well,
if it's a George story, it seems... It's going to be a 2-3 week one, and then it'll all be over with. But
I think that there will be something where Troy turns up and is like, "What did you think about my offer?"
Yeah.
And then he'll say, "I didn't get," and then George will not be able to help but look guilty, and it will come out, and then Todd will get mad for an episode.
I desperately yearn for a proper, decent, meaty story for Todd and his surrounding family.
But maybe
I don't know how this
he'll
can be
get
it at
that
the
with
moment.
Paul.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
So talking about Paul and Todd and Billy just quickly, do you think that we will get to see a really massive, big, sad funeral for Paul? We've got to, haven't we?
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's got to be like the best funeral ever, because even though Paul's not a hugely significant character, he's got, the contacts in the trade.
The church and the funeral direction. I mean, I guess that could be another salacious soap story if it goes down the fact that Todd has secretly helped Paul to end his life, and he has to be there part of the funeral feeling kind of guilty, and people saying, "Oh, nobody knows what happened to Paul," and Todd's like going, "Ooh."
There might be a bit of a scandal if it turns out the funeral director killed the corpse.
Yeah, exactly. It would be like Richard Hillman at Maxine's funeral, wouldn't it? He's the one that did it, but he's delivering the speech there.
Oh.
So I don't know, maybe. But as I said,
Anyway,
don't
I
get
don't
that. Right, finally. Is this finally?
Yeah.
We got the Ryan on the Roid story. He's back. Peter Carlo a little bit surprised that he's back from Michelle's after only a week and a half, but I'm not surprised. I don't think I could stomach her for much longer than that, to be honest. But he's back, and before he went, we saw that scene of him looking in the mirror at himself, didn't we, at his physique, and I was like, is he thinking, I'm buff or I'm not buff enough? And it turns out he doesn't think he's buff enough. He's lost some of his pre-acid physique, and he wants to get it back, so he's ordered himself £300 worth of fitness equipment.
I don't think it's trying to return to form. I think he's trying to become more... He's trying to compensate for his face with his body is what he's doing.
Yeah, he is doing that, but I think he said something this week about the fact that he's...
Yes, he said that, but that's not true. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, Michael. It might be a bit of a surprise to you.
Anyway.
He's using that as a cover for what he's doing, which is somewhat obsessive and unreasonable fixation on exercise.
So he's got all this exercise equipment. I enjoyed the scenes with him and Peter saying, "Oh yeah, I can do it," and Peter has to go at lifting the weights, doesn't he? Yeah, absolutely.
Tucking his elbow into his side, very good form.
He probably got that to be trained how to do this. There's probably somebody just
Health
off camera
safety.
going, "Wait, no, Chris, you're doing it wrong.
Keep your elbow in."
Anyway, that was kind of fun. I enjoyed Peter there. The end of the episode is him again looking at himself in the mirror, and then getting a dodgy sounding phone call from somebody about making sure his next delivery goes to the Weatherfield address, not to his mum's house. And I think we all were quite clear about what that was going to be when it happened, and we were right. So on Friday he gets a package delivered for him, but under the name of Colm McSweeney.
I tell you what,
I don't know how he came up with that.
This is genius level misdirection. No one's going to know this is for him.
Colm.
Has he not thought to himself that he can't keep this ruse up? Because the parcel came and Carl was like, "Oh, that's weird." Because first of all, you don't get your post delivered to your door when you live in a flat. It goes to the concierge or it gets put down in the what's it called area? What's it called? Public area or whatever it's called. And it's not got your name on it. So you're just everyone thinks you're stealing someone's post. And she says...
are you saying that his choice is, does he change the delivery name to Ryan, or does he keep Colm and carry on?
He changes his name to Colm. But why bother? Because does he really think that this is going to stop anybody finding out or him getting in trouble?
I don't know.
It's like, no, it's not mine. Look, it says Colm on it.
Well, he said that he would take... He says to Carlo, "I'm going to take it off. I know it belongs to him."
No, he says, "I'm taking it back to the post office because it's obviously not for us." Is he going to do this every time, or are they just... It's Carlo going to be like, "Do you know what? We've had 5 different parcels, all to different random men, and and Ryan keeps taking them into his room and coming out looking buffer every time.
I don't know, but if I was Ryan and I'd heard what Stephen had been up to this week, I'd be employing his services in post...
Post what? What are you talking about?
Getting. What's the word?
Post getting. Oh, retrieval.
Yeah, interception.
Yeah.
He's a skilled guy at that, is Stephen Reed. Anyway.
Stephen's like, don't worry, I'll sit in the foyer and wait for it to arrive. Just give me one of them.
I'll sit around by the bins.
I'm gonna take some too. I'm gonna beat Tim up.
So the story isn't just about Ryan on Friday. Daniel and Daisy also come into it, and I'm still finding it fairly uninspiring watching this part of the story.
I was so angry about
what, Daniel losing his pants?
No, about Daniel, like, I know that we're living to the great inconvenience of 4 adult members of our family in a terraced house with not enough bedrooms, but I said to those refugees that they could have my house for free. And gum, I'm not going to make them leave if there's nowhere for that. Like, are you kidding me? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to make do with the fact that I can't ever find my pants when the washing's been
I'm just going to, like, finger Tracy's bra.
What was that about? Like, was it supposed to be obvious that was Tracy's bra and not Daisy's? Because I think this is
obvious to women folk, but not men. Obvious, like they're not all one size fits all, are they?
No, but you know, Daisy's a bit of a saucy lady as well. She's probably got some.
What's that got to do with how big the bra was?
Oh, I was just looking at the colour of it.
Men.
I don't understand bras. I'm right there with you, Daniel. But anyway, they also get the bit where they take one of Steve's boxes out and then he's like stretching it how wide it is. Or Simon Gregson. So Daisy is quite surprised to see Ryan when she comes out of the shop later, and she's like, "Oh, you're back." She tries to have a bit of small talk with him, but he scurries off, which Jenny spies while she's, what do you think, cleaning the front of the Rovers.
It's all those dirty windows.
The dirty widows, yeah. Daisy and Jenny have a bit of talk later about moving out, and Daisy says that we just can't find anything. Jenny suggests the Canal Quarter, which is apparently the new name for Weatherfield Keys. I don't know why
Daisy is with this useless man that has a house, and he's making his child live in this pokey little house with all the rest of his family. So nobody is this noble, are they? In real life, it's a really nice idea to, as a single man, give your house to a family in need. But if you've got your own child and a girlfriend and you're taking advantage of your family's generosity and letting you live there, and let's remember, they both wanted to move out together somewhere, but they got crossed wires and they ended up moving into number 1. It was never the plan for them to live there.
No, I know.
So why? It's just bonkers. It's like, you can't just write into the script, yeah, Daniel's really into providing.
I don't know. Maybe he'll change his mind when he gets a 6.5% pay rise in the autumn term and he realises that he can afford
not working for
proper school. So anyway, we cut to Ryan. Oh, Jenny's telling Daisy about, don't be stupid, you were an idiot about Crystal, but I'm sure that he will get over it. No, she says maybe you should talk to Ryan. He'll get over it. Just take your time. Ryan opens his box and there is little vials of steroids in there, and then he gets his needles out and injects himself in the arse with them. And I'm not a needles fan. I can't deal with needles. I just don't like watching them ever. And so I was very grateful for the fact that they didn't show the insertion in that scene. But we got a point. And you could see that there was like a bruise. So he's been obviously doing this before. This isn't his first go. We knew that from the fact that this wasn't the first delivery, but yeah, he's been doing this for a few weeks now.
Pumping iron.
And he's there pumping his iron later when Daisy buzzes up, and he's not interested in any apologies that she's got to give him. He's got roid rage. He does have roid rage, doesn't he? He's
very angry and he's rude to her.
Yeah, well, this is when I was having a look up on the NHS website earlier about what some of the what do hemorrhoid? Not hemorrhoid. That's a different thing. What do steroids do? How to get in it? It's about stimulating muscle growth more quickly, and what are some of the after effects, possible side effects of them? And getting irritable and shrunken testicles is also a possible side effect as well.
Ryan.
So look out for that. So anyway, he's mad at her, tells her to bugger off.
he's
Just
like,
because
"You
he's been
ruined
away
everything."
and seeing my mum for a few weeks, it doesn't mean that I've changed everything. Look what you've done. He still blames his face on her.
No, I don't.
Which is a bit harsh.
Well,
he said that he did.
Yeah,
He
I
said
think that
he did.
he's saying things he doesn't mean because he's very cross.
Yeah, so he sends her on her way, and then finally at the end of the episode, we get a gratuitous topless. We get him and Aadi with his top off this week. So honestly, when's it the girls' turn?
They had the bra. You had the bra scene.
We did get a look at Tracy's bra this week. Yeah, that's the best that we could do with. And Carla catches him taking a picture of himself, and he seems like he's kind of chuffed with the results so far, didn't he? Like he was kind of flexing his muscles in the mirror and taking a picture and kind of nodding at himself like, yes, this is making a difference. But he makes out to Carla that this is just a before picture, and now he's going to do all his weightlifting for however many weeks, months he's planning to do this for.
I don't know why he's lying
and he's
about
going to have an after picture as well. Why doesn't he tell her that
because he's already buff.
I know.
How much more buff can he get? I'm not
you wait and
expecting the actor here to noticeably change, because I don't know how that would be possible, because he's already super buff, and anything more than that is going to become unhealthy.
I think he could be buffer. I've seen.
Oh, do you?
No, I've seen pictures on Ryan Prescott's social media before that he has been buffer than he was there in the past. People buff up for like the Marvel films, don't they?
Not in a healthy way, I'm telling you.
No, I think there may be a slight buffering.
Maybe buffering. That's what I'm doing.
But it's one of those things. Like, is it? I wonder how much.
Do you think that they can computer generate
Probably.
him looking more buff?
Probably, but I'm sure Ryan will be up for the challenge himself because he likes his keeping fit.
I know, but it's. I don't think you can make a big enough difference from somebody who already looks quite buff.
You're right. I don't know how different it's going to be, but I think.
But this is the same whenever they do anything like this with a character drastically changing their physical appearance. They can't really do it ethically because they can't ask the actors, and they also can't rely on the actors being able to do it because it's not always within everyone's control.
No, I mean, we had the Craig storyline a few years ago, didn't we? And that was a direct result of Coulson Smith deciding to do something about his fitness during the pandemic.
It would have been a lot more different because originally Coulson, from what I remember of that short film that they made, he was intending for it to actually be a transformation storyline.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I remember. But then it had to be called off for the pandemic, and so we just end up suddenly seeing Gray going, yeah, I've been running this whole time. Yeah. Round.
Somebody needs to come and give me a storyline like that to act out. To say, Michael, just do it.
Yeah, if somebody paid me £10 million and they were like, you've got to be in the next Marvel film. Come on, fatty, let's see what you... Here's £10 million. I'd say, I think I could manage that.
I have been pigging out quite magnificently in the last week and a half in France, haven't I?
Yeah.
And I've still got
puddings at every meal.
There have been plenty of puddings scoffed. And I've still got big old boxes of chocolates from the end of term as well, so I might just get through those first.
Oh really? That's where I fall down.
Very grateful for those.
Got to eat this first.
Then I'll start the weight loss. Definitely. Right. So that was last week's Coronation Street. Probably better get this episode out so people can find out what we thought of it before tomorrow's rolls along. So final thoughts. I thought it was a pretty decent week, to be honest.
It was a good week. There were good storylines. I found some of them iffy, like the premise incredibly iffy, and I don't really know what to say anymore about that. I think there are a lot of greys here, which is good. I'm really interested in how Stephen's going to exploit this situation with Sarah.
Yeah. I'm really interested in where the Paul story goes down. Yeah. The Courtney one seems to be taking a break now, but I'm very...
Sorry.
The stiff competition storyline, it's like if it were to end here, fine, but it won't be. I still enjoyed seeing it. The only storyline this week that I was like not too fussed when it came on the screen was the Ryan one, I suppose, but it was still interesting in its own way.
Yeah.
When I found out I assume it's going to be some kind of addiction storyline, isn't it? Because that's one of the things it says on the NHS website, very addictive. So I guess it's going to go down there, but the thought of that doesn't necessarily fill me with glee or anticipation, but yeah, why not? But yeah, on the whole, I was enjoyed the week, and we sat through 3 hours of it this afternoon. Boom, boom, boom.
It wasn't a chore at all. Like sometimes, even just watching one, you're thinking, oh.
Yeah, no. I was like, happily.
You want to put the next one on, don't you?
I know. I want to find out what happens next. So before we can do that, we need a character of the week and what we score in it. I am going to score this week's Coronation Street. I'm going to say I'm going to give it 3.5. Parental permission forms coming out of Glenda's backside out of 5. And sorry if anyone's used that on our Facebook poll already. I've not checked. I set up the poll last week. I even made it rhyme for you, despite not having seen the episodes. But yeah, that's what I'm going to give it. I don't know about my character of the week, so you give your score. What I have to think.
I am going to give this 3.5 problematic affairs out of 5.
Okay.
My character of the week is Stephen.
Of course, I thought it would be.
Because I don't know what he's up to again. I think he's great, and I'm glad he's back in the flat, up to his evil tricks. He's left too many clues lying about. He tore up the Elaine's fake note, and put it in his bag. He's put all the bits of paper under a folder, which is not very good hiding places. So
I trust him to a folder when his big red box.
Secretly. Yeah, now he can flagrantly have his red box out wherever he wants in that flat.
Yeah, but Tim's broken the lock on it.
I would have changed the locks on the whole place. Keep that bloody kid
When you have
out.
a breakup, you got to change your locks.
Yeah,
that's the
keep
rules.
Tim out.
I don't want to just keep giving it to Stephen all the time. Although, to be fair, it probably
clearly
was
the best character.
Sarah Louise was entertaining this week.
Yeah, she was
Aadi was fun. Amy was great, standing up to Courtney.
There were bits this week when
Paul great as well.
This week, I tell you, Tina O'Brien did some really good, like, wide-eyed, sad Sarah acting. Like
Tina O'Brien is such a gem. I'm gonna go rogue this week, just in case I don't get much of a chance in the future, and award this week's character of the week to Shelly.
Yeah,
just to make a nice change.
Good for her.
She was back on Monday. She was funny. I mean, everything I've said about her already. I think
Poignant.
it's a really interesting character to have, to somebody that's that much further down the road than Paul. Not just inappropriately funny, but could also do the serious stuff well as well. And
she was really good. She was really
very,
versatile.
very
You're right. She could do everything.
Absolutely brilliant casting for that one.
Yeah.
So as in a week that I could give it to lots of people, I'm gonna give a shout out to the little one.
Wish I'd given it to Shelly.
Well, it's all right. You can share it with me. And that's it. So we're not going to do our news at the moment, even though there is some news this week. We're not going to do our feedback. We're just going to get cracking with uploading it for you lovely people to listen to, and then probably have our dinner. Yeah.
You might have dinner.
Are you still feeling a bit rough?
Yeah.
Well, I might have some dinner and watch Monday's Coronation Street.
What am I
Find out what's going to happen at the gender reveal party and all that. So until Saturday morning, that's about it. So I'll see you then, everybody. Enjoy the few days that you got left of the week until we appear once more with episode 587.